Hello, welcome to round 2 of the Formula Pro series on R Factor 2. My name is Rachel Downey, and this week we're here at Monza. Now, if you missed round 1, first of all, where were you? We were from Spa, and it was a fantastic yet hectic race, seeing Team Redline take a 1-2 and Jeffrey Rietveld be our very first winner of 2022. Now, it wasn't just me here chatting away. We've got Lewis McGlade. Lewis, hello.
Hello, glad to be back.
Good. It was hectic last time.
It really was. I mean, obviously, Spa always delivers a hectic race. The Ardennes is a fantastic place to start our season. It's where we started back in 2021. It's where we started in 2022 as well. And there was drama, especially for our champions in Mercedes-AMG Petronas Esports. Of course, there was a disconnection or the such from Jarno Opmeer. There was a wheel issue. We believe, having spoken to a few people, that basically Bono Huis couldn't shift for a certain period. And so he was struggling to get up through the gears, so he was delayed in it. What a comeback drive, though, to get a podium after all that, just behind, of course, the Redline 1-2. It was superb.
And how much, very quickly, was that a shock for everyone that Team Redline took the 1-2?
I think if there was ever a team that was going to pick up the pieces from Mercedes, it was probably always going to be Team Redline. RAG have had a few little splashes. Jarno Simic, of course, for Burst as well, also there or thereabouts. But Redline have always been the challenging force. Jeffrey Rietveld, for example, of course, he had pole position at Spa, but twice last season he also had pole positions and obviously second in the championship as well. So very, very strong competitor. Kind of makes sense. Yeah,
it does, but it was fantastic all the same. Now, if you're wondering what is it all about, we've got a series explanation coming up right now.
Formula Pro 2022 Explained, featuring 12 of the very best teams on the R Factor 2 platform battling it out for the championship. 6 rounds across our season as we venture to some of the greatest tracks on the planet as they battle for a $50,000 prize pool. We visit Francorchamps, we visit Monza, we then head to the Daytona road course before going to the brand new Donington Park Grand Prix, then the Circuit d'Azur and our season finale at Laguna Seca. Relegation at the end of the season will play 2 cars against the Formula Challenge champions. Every round features a mandatory pit stop with the required use of 2 different compounds through the running of the race, and success ballast will be dished out to the top 3 drivers in the championship at the increments of 10, 7 and 4 kilograms. Push to pass is also available in the race for 60 seconds to give a boost of around 55 brake horsepower. Cars will enter Parc Fermé after qualifying, with limited changes being allowed to the setup. Drivers will also start the race on the same compound as their fastest lap in qualifying, and race control will monitor the racing action.
And then let's go straight into the calendar. So, as we were saying, 2 weeks ago, in fact, we were coming from Spa. Today, we're at Monza, moving forward till June, which is quite a few weeks away. We've got Daytona, and then already the middle of the series, we're going to be in Donington Park, which is the beginning of July. Moving on then to the Circuit d'Azur, which is the 18th of July. And last but no means least, we are ending on the 1st of August at Laguna Seca. I'm looking forward to Laguna.
Laguna Seca obviously is going to be a great one. 2 circuits on there being brand new to the service. Of course, Laguna Seca and Donington Park releasing just 2 weeks ago, actually, when we started, of course, the season on the 9th of May in that Q2 content drop. Brilliant tracks, of course, and I'm sure they're going to create their own thrills. But focusing on today, focusing on Monza, focusing on the difficulty of this circuit, one of the fastest circuits on the calendar. This one's going to be a lot of fun.
Now, do you find it bittersweet with some of the drivers? Find maybe Monza a little bit, I don't know, boring's not the word, but the fact it is so fast, it's harder to overtake. Do you think it's a difficult track to overtake?
Oh, certainly is. I mean, everyone kind of thinks, it was just straight, so of course you can pass. Of course you can pass. Right, just to clarify, we don't have DRS in Formula Pro in 2022, so that's not really an option to pass. You're running a very slick winged car, so it's very flat. You're basically not pushing out as much dirty air, and then with the ground effect and stuff, you're not punching a big hole, and so it means that the closing speed, you don't have as much slipstream to work into, which means it is hard to race around here.
So qualifying is probably very important. Let's have a quick look at last time out.
as we prepare ourselves for another season of action as we're underway here at Spa. Not a great launch from Rietveld. Chinchik dropping the wheel spin as he fires his way down into turn one. One off in the grass in the background. That's Mitchy Hoyer pushing his way to turn one. He's made contact though with Colin Spork. There is plenty of side-by-side in the background. We roll back to the back end of the top 10 as Ibrahim Khan and Mohamed Patel have picked up a spot. This is Kevin Siggy getting past Jarno Simičić. Despite the DRS board, we don't have DRS in these cars. It's just push to pass.
Was that change of position?
That is a change of position. Marcel Chinchik's got past Bono Huis. I know Huis had a terrible exit.
I think this tells you a lot about Bono's strategies. He runs wide, actually. Has he got damage? Right, that was maybe a mistake. I think, yeah, Bono doesn't make mistakes like that very often. He seemed to have understeer.
Opmeer's out of the race. Jarno Opmeer is out of the race. This is going terribly for Mercedes-AMG Petronas Esports. But here's another one going past your champion. That's Jarno Simičić. Oh, a little bit of side-by-side. Here comes as well. It is Mohamed Patel trying to get his way past. I'm not sure Bono Huis is going to finish this race inside the top 10. I think he's going to make the move now on Adam Maguire, who's done a fantastic job to hang on to second position for as long as he has. Push to pass being used for both of our top two. Right on the button. Here we go for Marcel Chinchik. He's close. He's to the outside as we head into Lake Om, but the straight line speed of that red line is just enough. Here comes though Bono Huis looking to the outside. He'd have to really throw it in. Oh, there's a bit of a brush though as he runs all the way around. They're going to come together, and Adam Maguire has been sent around. There is Maguire rejoining behind the two BS Competitions cars. This is Liam DeVal going around the outside of Peter Berliak. Oh my goodness, that would be a proper send. Actually, sorry, it's not Berliak, it's completely wrong. That's Maguire and Khan switching positions once or twice. Kick of oversteer off the corner. Khan manages to hang on and does keep the position as a dive back down the inside from Maguire again. That's from so far back. Hooks it up to the apex, but the outside drive surely it's going to leave Ibrahim Khan in the hunt. This is back with Brzezinski getting past Liam DeVal. Fiduci's also trying to attack Jordan in the background. DeVal under attack. Brzezinski's got this. He's overlooked. Oh, there's contact between the two. Brzezinski's gone for a spin. Dennis Jordan one way, Fiduci the other.
Bono Huis on the push to pass. Marcel Chinchik not on it, not got much left. Siggy's using some. Huis is back on it. I think Chinchik's got nothing left in terms of push to pass because he would have defended there.
Jeffrey Rietveld wins the first race of the season here in Formula Pro in 2022. Jeffrey Rietveld and Kevin Siggy 1 and 2 with Bono Huis in third position.
Now, that was last time out, and just watching it back, you really do forget how hectic it is, how busy that was, how it was manic at points. The middle of the grid were fantastic. Really was a great race. Brilliant way to start the season.
Oh, superb. Absolutely superb. I mean, you've got to remember, these are just hour-long races. It's just 60 minutes. You've got to attack it very quickly, and they have to. It's only one-stop strategy races, really, so they've got to go all out on the attack. It's great fun.
Yeah, it really is great fun. There's so much more still to come. Now, earlier on, we spoke to Jeffrey, who took the crowning glory in Spa, and this is what he had to say.
It's great to score 1-2 with the team, of course. It was a great team effort, and but I mean, it's just race one out of 6 races, and this race we will carry ballast, so yeah, we will for sure be a bit slower. I'm not sure if we can fight for victory, but we will see. Long way to go, but it's a great start, of course. I don't particularly like the track, but I don't hate it either. It's a bit boring if you ask me. But with the push to pass button we have in the race, it will for sure be interesting for the viewers and also for us. But just to lap it, it's not that special. I like more technical tracks, and Monza is generally more like straight, hard braking point, slow speed chicane, and then the same all over again, with the exception of Ascari and Parabolica. So I prefer more like street circuit, like Monaco or Singapore, those type of tracks. But yeah, like I said, I don't hate it, I don't love it. For me, it's fine. Usually I'm pretty quick on the track, so let's see. I would say Mercedes with Bono naturally always being incredibly quick in Formula cars, especially. I'm not too sure about Jarno. I think he's not too far from Bono, and Bono is super quick. So I think those are, yeah, they will be our biggest competitors. And I think right behind that it's RAG, and behind that it's very close between, I think, teams like Burst and stuff. So for us, mainly, I would say Mercedes at this point.
Now, Jeffrey actually did touch on it. What else is new this season?
Well, we have ballast of brand new for 2022. Something just to spice things up. It is not extreme, of course. Most people, when they think of success ballast, think towards touring car racing, and then there's like 75 for the winner and stuff. Well, it's slightly changed these days. You know how it is. It is quite light. It doesn't affect you too much. Here's a look at how it is. Jeffrey Rietveld with 10 kilos. After taking that victory, the winner has 10, then second place has 7, and then third has 4. That's all it is. It's just enough to spice things up. No one else has success ballast, just the top 3.
So not really enough to make a huge difference?
Correct.
Or you're like, correct, Rachel, yes.
Correct, yes. It's not extreme. I mean, the car weighs 600 kilos anyway, which obviously when you put in a tank of fuel, it's fairly hefty. 10 kilos makes a difference, but it's not like a mind-boggling. It's not going to be something which I think would rule out the idea that Jeffrey Rietveld is out of the chance of victory.
Brilliant. Well, look, I believe, so we know it's Monza. We can be very excited about that, the challenges ahead. Talk us through the track and also the weather conditions.
Yeah, indeed. Well, it is a fantastic venue to go to. Of course, Monza, one of the most historic circuits in all of motorsport. It's one that was opened back in 1922. A fantastic venue. In fact, they broke ground on this circuit about 100 years ago, almost to the day. It was 1 week ago, on the 15th of May, when they actually broke ground. Obviously, one week and then 100 years, a bit longer than a week, when they broke ground to first build this circuit. We ran it at the season finale of 2021. Bono Huis taking the fastest lap of the race and, of course, the race victory on his way to cleaning all 6 race victories across the season. It was a fantastic race. Erhan Yovski, the Macedonian, took the lead down into turn 1, but the circuit situated in the Royal Villa of Monza Park. It is 5.7 kilometres long, 5.8 kilometres long. You've got the 1 and a bit kilometre front stretch. It's 1.2, and then you've got the 1 kilometre run from Lesmo down towards Ascari, from the second Lesmo to Ascari. You've also got a 1 kilometre run from Ascari down towards the Parabolica. There's plenty of opportunities to slipstream around here, but it's not the easiest circuit to race. It certainly has its own little challenges. Now, we've had to say goodbye to Rachel Downey, and there's someone alongside me who, no disrespect, mate, you're slightly less attractive, but of course, we've got Aidan Millward. No John Monroe, he's off skiving. Aidan Millward's here, though. Hello.
Yeah, it's great to be back on the broadcast with you in the flesh
I
as
know,
well.
It's terrifying.
It's a bit weird. It makes you slightly uncomfortable, but to be here at Monza as well for some high-speed action, V10 screaming through the forest on what is a deceptively long track as well. I mean, no DRS. It's going to be very entertaining to watch in the actual race, as well as qualifying, which is coming out now, I believe.
Yeah, indeed. We are actually in the qualifying session. We'll take a look as we'll see the circuit live for the first time. Of course, we've had all our GVs and stuff, so we've seen the track pans, but now we have to actually get into the meat of it. And our car racing around, Dennis Jordan, Oracle Red Bull Racing Esports and Burst, who, you know, we typically understand they work together. They've been feeling very, very confident coming into this. They've said they've got great pace. Whether that means that they've got the pace to win is a very different question, but we know what this team's like when it comes to speed. They've not really shown it in Formula Pro just yet.
Well, there was a bit of an issue for, I think it was either Siebel or Jordan. It was one of the Red Bulls had to start from the back at Spa for an infringement with the part Ferme rules, which will be in effect, I think, as they've come out of the pit lane, so they can only adjust something like the front wing and the fuel, obviously, and the tyre pressures and things like that. So he had to start from the back because he broke part Ferme rules by disconnecting from the server and coming back in. So he had to start from the back and make your way through, and over an hour it can be done, especially at Spa as well. You can do it. There's plenty of places to overtake, but we've seen that Redline were very fast last time out, obviously 1-2. We know that the Mercedes cars are very fast because of the talent they've got behind the wheel, but don't count out the pair of Dennis Jordan, Alex Siebel, and also R8G, who we think are going to go pretty well here today as well.
Yeah, R8G have been looking very, very fast in practice. It's another team not to underestimate. I mean, basically, if we speak of teams not to underestimate, we go through 12 teams, i.e. the entire grid. Colin Spork will cross the line to start a lap around the circuit, so we can really visualise as to how difficult this circuit is. It might well be just straights and chicanes, but there is so much more to it.
Yeah, I raced here in Formula Challenge last season. When the tyres start to wear off, so easy to lock up into turn 1. You just saw Colin Spork do it there, and he was one of the top dogs in Challenge last season. Very, very fast driver. Also his teammate Noah Roivers as well, very fast driver. So Netrex aren't just there to prop at the rear of the field. They can actually get there. They're doing quite well in FSR at the minute as well, the Open Wheel Championship in R Factor 2. and yeah, just going through the two Lesmos, the sparks getting kicked up and probably running that thing as low as possible in terms of downforce and drag as well to maximise the top speed, which would be in the region of about 215 miles an hour down these really long straights.
Now, Colin Spork, by the way, did qualify second here in Formula Challenge. The time, though, this is the more important bit, though. The time that he set in that session would have been good enough to get him inside of the top 10 of Formula Pro, showing obviously it was very, very competitive indeed in Formula Challenge. We're on board now with Colin Spork out of Ascari on this 1 kilometre run down towards the Parabolica. You'll hook it in for that kind of a very early apex. You just run, big snap there from Colin Spork as he left the corner straight into pit lane. No, he is actually going to carry it off, of course. They do have to do a full in lap. What can Colin Spork do? Just 8th spot. That was a big snap through the final corner.
Lots of torque going to the rear wheels in these cars. They're very, very difficult to drive, and you think, I'm actually getting the hang of this thing now, and then you see people like Spork and Siebel with that 19.4. It's currently provisional pole as we now cut to Haniowski. Looking at the RHG Esports guys, we think they're going to do well. What colour is that little bar going to be on this lap?
Well, we'll have to wait and see, because I know that Haniowski, of course, I said before, he took the lead on the start in honestly a brilliant start. It's the longest run down towards turn 1 that we've got of the season, and he had a brilliant start. That first sector is trash, though. I think he's on an in-lap here. He's going to come into the pit lane.
That's very slow.
But qualified up the order, of course. He actually qualified in 3rd position, led quite a lot of the early stage of the race. It was only in the long battle with himself and Jeffrey Rietveld that the two of them kind of came together coming into the Roger, and it opened up the door for Bono Huis, of course, to sneak his way through and then run away with the victory, as you do. But it's a circuit which I would expect Jajowski to do well at. It's also a circuit where, maybe due to the lack of complexity of the circuit, we expect qualifying to be incredibly close. Ferris Stanley picking up a little bit of slipstream of the BS competitions that came into the pit lane as he would cross the line to go 6/10 off of pole. Your pole time, kind of irrelevant, but I'm still going to say it anyway. Pole time from 2021 was an 18.8, but that obviously was with DRS, so yeah, kind of take your pick with that. don't really know where I was going with that point, but I'm still going to bring it up anyway.
Well, I mean, with the whole DRS thing going on, we're probably not going to see as many slam dunk overtakes as we probably did see in Pro and Challenge last season, because now it's the push to pass system that's brand new in R Factor 2 as part of the latest upgrade to the simulator, as Kevin Siggy goes fastest overall in that middle sector. We'll have to keep an eye on that lap. But now it's not just the guy attacking that's got the advantage. The guy defending now also has an ability to defend by initiating that push-to-pass system as well. So
which is why I like it.
It's going to be very, very good, and we're going to see the actual drivers doing the work rather than some aerodynamic gizmo on the rear.
Yeah, just 60 seconds of push to pass that adds an extra 55 brake horsepower. There is 1,000th of a second. Oh, that is a superb lap. 6,000th of a second. Jarno Simičić goes into 3rd. And I was going to kind of bring this up. We were expecting this to be very, very close. The pole here was the 2nd closest pole position that we've had between 1st and 2nd in Formula Pro. It was 8,000ths of a second between Bono Huis and Jeffrey Rietveld. The closest, though, was actually at Silverstone. It was at round 2. Of the championship last season, again between Rietveld and Huis, and it was 6,000ths of a second. 1,000th, I don't think you can get much closer than that.
That's a photo finish. We're almost at Jerez 97 levels of qualification here, but Bono Huis going faster still. He's 0.052 up in that first sector, coming down towards the Ascari chicane. Cars getting out of the way. It's a Mercedes coming up. They're assuming it's Huis, but he's off the pace a little bit in that middle sector. Can he claw it back through that final corner into Parabolica?
Oh, and he's got a little bit of slipstream. I don't think that's really going to affect him too much. It's just not quite close enough. More so just something to aim for, realistically, but nothing more than that. Here comes Bono Huis then through the final corner, pulls it back over to the right-hand side. They've got plenty of downforce to hold it much tighter out of that final corner. Only 5th place, within a 10th of a second, but only 5th place. It's not looking like it's the season for Mercedes-AMG Petronas Esports, and here is your 2-time F1 Esports World Champion, Jarno Opmeer. We didn't see enough of him last round, of course, courtesy of that disconnection. He qualified in 5th place at Spa. What can he do here? Lost an awful lot of time in that 2nd sector. Clearly not working out for the Mercs.
Yeah, so Sector 2 is the 2 Lesmos in the run up towards Ascari, so they might be losing something in those 2, which are notoriously difficult to hook up on a hot lap anyway. And it's just not working for them over the latter part of the stint on the lap. 11th. That's not a good lap.
No, it isn't. Well, when it comes to teams, though, look at the top lot there. Oracle Red Bull Racing Esports, the only team with 2 cars on top of them, kind of like a bit of a moot point. Obviously, you've got Wolves GR with 6th and 8th. But in the top 10, you've got R8G that have 2 cars, you've got Oracle Red Bull Racing Esports, and you've got Wolves. Mercedes, no. Redline, no. Burst, no. That I would not have predicted coming into this day.
No, I mean, it's like watching the Indy 500 qualifying, how close they are to each other. It's like, you look at the timing tower on the left-hand side of your screen, the top 10 covered by just over 0.2 of a second.
Which is way closer than it was last year. Last year, the top 10 was just under half a second. It is incredibly tight, as obviously as the years roll on, as people get more and more used to the car. Whilst it is a similar car to last season, it's not exactly the same. There are subtle differences that have just affected things like with the DRS and stuff. Let's see Dennis Jordan around a lap then. So he'll brake heavily, of course, for the Rettifilio. This is one of the drivers that was saying very confident. Big lock-up, though. You saw that there. Exactly what you were talking about with the lap that we saw from Colin Spork earlier. That lock-up, it's not a major issue, but it will probably be playing on his mind on the run into the Rosje.
Yeah, with R-Factor 2 simulating flat spotting quite well. It's the proverbial 50p piece that he's going to be running on, but it depends on how badly he has locked those up. Hammers the sausage curbs through the second chicane. That's not going to do the balance of his car any good into the 2 Lesmos here. Seems neat and tidy enough, but it looks neat, but maybe the speed's not up, but he is faster in that first sector, and that's crucial.
Yeah, a few cars not setting times at the moment. The 2 Team Fordzillas being those, Fiducci and Pinto. Stefanko as well, also yet to set a time in the session. I think there's some issues on that side as Stefanko, I believe, has left the session, potentially to try and rectify some issues. This lap time, though, from Dennis Jordan. Could this be his first pole position of the season? Of course, has finished in the top 3 in GT Pro twice. Finished in the top 3 in Season 4. Finished runner-up by just a point, if memory serves, or a couple of points back in Season 3 to Jan van der Heide. What can Dennis Jordan do here? Is he looking for his first pole? Is he looking to deny Redline once again across the line? Yes, he is. He goes up onto pole by nearly 1/10 of a second. An absolutely superb lap time. And Alex Siebel also improves. So it's an Oracle Red Bull Racing Esports 1-2.
Yeah, Marcel Cinchik, one of the ones we were looking out for in this event, as part of R8G with Erhan Yujovski, of course. He's currently in 5th. They'll be looking to try and upset that Red Bull party, as Jordan and Siebel with 2 absolutely big laps to really hammer home the point of, like, this is our time, this is our track.
Well, you know how I said Dennis Jordan has finished in the top 3 the last 2 seasons of GT Pro. Guess who else has? Alex Siebel.
Alex Siebel, yeah.
Of course he has. Those 2, obviously teammates. They've been teammates for years, even back when I was sim racing 2014-15. Those 2 were teammates. They've been teammates for teams like Smile Power, for Evolution, for Burst, sort of briefly, for Edge, and teammates here for Oracle Red Bull Racing Esports. I mean, Dennis Jordan's been getting his eye in elsewhere in sim racing. He did some race engineering for the GT Esports camp and a race at the weekend, so he's seeing out how things are going elsewhere in sim racing, and we know what they're like when it comes to strategy. If those 2 can start on the front row, who was that who just straight lined the chicane? It's one of the Bicoles Burst Esports cars. I think it might have been Marocek as one of the Burst cars, also warming up their tyres very aggressively on the run down into the Parabolica. What can Cinchik do? First sector, decent. Second sector, not so great. Losing out a little bit of time, but could be good enough to move him maybe ahead of Jarno Simičić if he nails this final sector. Across the line for Marcel Cinchik, it's up to second. Superb final sector, and Marcel Cinchik moves on to the front row of the grid.
We were just talking about big laps for Jordan and Siebel. That's an even bigger lap to split the 2, as Ibrahim Khan now on your screens. A lad that loves to drive at 1,000,000 miles an hour everywhere he goes, so very, very rapid, but he's just in 9th of BS competition at the minute. He's the lead BS competition car at the minute. He's slower first sector, he's a personal best in the middle sector, but it's all about when you cross that line right at the end, where's he going to bump himself up to, or maybe not improve at all.
I think he's one of the only people as well that I think our broadcast direction might also feel is louder than I am. Obviously, they know that I can get quite loud. Ibrahim Khan certainly in that vein as well. What can he do? Across the line in 9th spot at the moment, improves. Final sector again. That is the 2nd purple sector in the final sector that I've seen, because obviously Marcel Cinchik just did one. Ibrahim Khan did one. Does that mean that the Oracle Red Bull Racing Esports cars are a bit not so ideal, not great in that final sector. What can Jarno Simičić do? Look at that second sector. If he can improve in this final sector, he could move himself potentially onto the front row, onto pole position. This is a fantastically close and thrilling end to the qualifying session. Jarno Simičić comes across the line, and it's pole. It's good enough for pole. Jarno Simičić has done it at the end. Oh, there's still some time left to go, but what a super lap. Dennis Jordan is done. Alex Siebel is done with the session. Jarno Simičić could be looking at his very first pole.
Yeah, Bono Huis on a lap. This will be do or die for him. 30 seconds left on the clock, so he won't be able to start another lap. So coming up to the second chicane, it's the fastest overall in Sector 1.
Yeah, incredible first sector there from Bono Huis. That was also Jarno Simičić's one of his weakest sectors. He did lose a fair amount of time in that first sector, so it kind of makes sense as he'll roll himself through the first Lesmo, roll himself through the second. Jarno Simičić's second sector, though, was very good. Now, these two, when it comes to Bono Huis and Jarno Simičić, you brought it up earlier about Formula Sim Racing. When it comes to people who have picked up titles, in that these two have 8 titles between them, more than anyone else. An absolutely incredible feat. Huis, though, through the second sector, not good enough, loses 0.2 of a second. Picks up maybe a touch of slipstream there from the Bicoles Burst Esports car. Look at how tight this session is, by the way. Half a second separates the top 19 teams. The drivers, indeed. Absolutely incredible. Checkered flag is out in the session. Bono Huis comes around the Parabolica. Is there going to be any final improvement from the Flying Dutchman? He crosses the line, and the champion only goes to 6th place, and his teammate just in 14th. This is not a good day for the Mercedes-AMG Petronas Esports Team. Jarno Opmeer, though, does improve, gets himself inside the top 10, but who else can stop Jarno Simičić? Kevin Siggy, I believe, has done his lap. He's finished with the session. I think 4th is good enough for him. Simičić, I think, has done it.
Yeah, and without DRS trains in the race, we're in for a spicy race.
We really are. Of course, Simičić was also recently crowned the Season 4 champion of the R-Factor 2 GT Pro Series. I think he's never taken a win, though, in that. He certainly hadn't before Season 4, and I don't think he has in Season 4 either.
He did win one race.
Did he win one?
I think it was at Loch Drummond, where he finally did it.
I'm not sure he did at Loch Drummond. I'm pretty sure we were on that broadcast.
He definitely got a win, though.
He must have done. Either way, we'll bicker about the stats another time. Either way, this has been a very dramatic qualifying session for the Mercedes team. Just 6th and 9th on the grid. But we know they're a racy team. We know they're a fast team. We know they know what they're doing. Bono Huis, for example, as much as he had pole last season, he did run the first half of the race really in 3rd spot for the most of it. So if you are a Mercedes fan, don't lose hope just yet. We've got a 60-minute race coming up ahead of us, and who knows what is possible from that. It's going to be a thrilling one.
Well, there's sending it into turn 1. There's the undercut. There's the overcut. There's fuel strategies. There's tyre strategies to come into play because they have to make a pit stop. Remember, they have to use 2 different compounds of tyres. So it is going to be a very interesting race. It's impossible to call with so many cars that close to each other. Who's going to save tyres? Who's going to try and burn tyres to pull away? Who's going to try and break the slipstream? You don't know.
Well, it's the 4th time that we've had, you know me and my stats, they're pointless stats as well, and it is kind of a pointless one, but I do love them. Is the 3rd time that we've had 4 drivers separated by 1/10 of a second. But I would say from front to back, whilst the top 2 aren't the closest, because obviously that is the 0.006 of a second that we had back in Silverstone, I would say when it comes to an entire grid, or at least like the top 20, I don't think we've ever seen a grid this close. To be honest, I'd even throw that over to R-Factor 2 GT Pro, because as much as we've had some great qualifying sessions there, that was insanely close. The top 20 on the grid, it's only a 24-car grid, basically separated by half a second.
Well, I mean, I say it every time I do an event at Monza. It's the closest thing we have to an oval.
Yeah.
So you've got all those things to factor in. It's mostly straight line speed, and then it's just really the exits of corners and the Ascari and the Lesmos and things like that.
Well, I think we should probably take a look at these standings. Of course, it is just the race results from the previous round, but it is still relevant to take a look at and give you a bit of a reminder as to how things stand, not only in the championship, but also, again, with that all-important success ballast as well. We cannot forget it. It is 10 kilos, and if you have a session as tight as that, that 10 kilos does make quite a bit of a difference. I'll take back what I said to Rachel Downey there earlier on. If it's that close, yeah, fair enough. Obviously, 10 kilos to Jeffrey Rietveld. Siggy has 7 kilos and Bono Huis has just the 4. I don't think Huis can complain about the 4 kilos as being the real issue as to why he loses out. Either way, let's take a look at the qualifying standings. Janis Simoncic, Dennis Jordan will start on the front row of the grid. I think it's the first front row for the pair of them in the Formula Pro Series. Marcel Chinchik and Kevin Siggy 3rd and 4th. Siggy, of course, that's 7 kilos. And then Alex Siebel and Bono Huis line up on row 3. Maguire, Hoyer, Opmeer and Ibrahim Khan. Hoyer, who had those issues on the start down into turn 1, will start inside the top 10 with his teammate Liam Deval, Petr Belyak, Erhan Yovsky down the order. I mean, he started 3rd last time. Then Rietveld, Patel, Skovron, Stanley, Kish, Marocek and Spork, your top 20. The final 3 really being Fiducci, Roybers and Pinto. The one missing is Stefanko from that list. Incredibly tight indeed.
Very, very tight grid, but anything can happen in over the course of 60 minutes.
Well, we've got Rachel with us, so we can have probably a bit of a chat with her. What do you think of that?
That was amazing. That was really. And do you know what? It's quite funny when I asked you how much will the success ballast make a difference. You were like, not much. Really? I mean, Jeffrey. Wow. But amazing for Kevin Siggy though, 4th. That's a really good effort.
On 7 kilos, that is very, very impressive.
Yeah.
And to have been able to drag that out of the car, really cool. Rietveld, less so. But considering that Bono Huis has less success ballast than Siggy and he's starting behind him, I think that might be a bit of a concern.
What do you think's going on with Bono Huis? I mean, I know we're only like 1 race in. This has only been qualies, but he's not necessarily reaching the expectations of him, is he, at the moment?
Well, it could be a number of things. It could be that lack of support, just not feeling it, got other things going on. Could be anything, really. You get distracted easily, but this is one of the fastest guys and one of the most successful guys in sim racing ever. I mean, how many times did he win FSR in a row? 5? Yeah, so
surely as well, the other drivers must be on cloud 9 right now thinking, look how well we are doing. And they must, Lewis, do you think they compare themselves to Bono as well right now?
100%. I mean, the thing was last season, right, no one had time to react. And that's kind of the issue, that no one's had time to react to what's happened. Now I've had 6-8 months to be able to figure out how Bono got as fast in the car. Other drivers have been picking up experience in other championships as well in this car. I think that's what's closed the gap. I think, like you say, a lot of drivers are driving around on cloud 9 and confidence creates skill. Yeah,
it's like you're thinking, I'm ahead of Bono Huis. I've got a chance here. I'm sure you've had it doing sim racing leagues as well.
I've had it. The Millwood guy once.
I've had it myself. It's like you out qualify the fastest guy on the grid, and it's like, hello. I might have something here. And then in my case, I inevitably crash at turn 2 and undo all of that, luck, let's call it. But I'm sure that the confidence will be there for them. But I think some of them, they're just like super serious esports guys. They'll get their heads down and just be like, right, 60 minutes are coming up. Let's see what happens at the end of the race. It's a marathon, not a sprint. As the phrase goes. Yeah,
and it does prove that with racing, there's always surprises. You never know what's coming up next, so you can never quite literally take your foot off the gas. But as always, here with us on R Factor 2, we've got loads of new content dropping all the time. So let's have a look what our most recent content drop is. The thrill of racing, and by looking at all that new content, I think it's time that we went racing. Let's go.
Well, indeed, it is time to take to the legendary Royal Villa of Monza Park for the second round of the Formula Pro Series. They're rolling around with the formation app. They're getting themselves ready. They've got to get their tyres right into the window, and that is really the difficult thing.
Yeah, get the brakes into the window as well, because that is a massive stop into turn one, even at the start. As you say, it's the longest run down to turn one. It's just over about 600 metres, I believe. And there is your grid. Jarno, who's going to be on cloud 9. Starting this race right at the front.
Yeah, Simičić, Jordan, Marcel Chinchik and Kevin Siggy will start from the front 2 rows of the grid. Behind that is Alex Siebel and our champion, Bono Huis, just from 6th, his worst qualifying that he's ever had in Formula Pro. Adam Maguire starts inside the top 10 once again, with Michi Hoyer having his best qualifying of the season. Jarno Opmeer down in 9th and Ibrahim Khan in the top 10 for the second consecutive race. Liam de Waal and Petr Beljak, after his first ever top 10 in the Formula Pro Series, will roll off 12th place. Haniowski started 3rd place here last year. He has plus 10 to his name this time. He'll line up alongside the championship leader in Rietveld. Patel and Skovron round out row 8. Then it's all rocket on row 9 with Ferris Stanley and Danny Kish, David Marocek and Colin Spork. Another not so great qualifying session for the Bout Esports Team and Netrex Grand Prix. Our 2 new additions to the championship, and not a great one for Fordzilla either. Gianmarco Fiducci and Nuno Pinto in 21st and 23rd on either side of Noah Roy, was a driver that finished in 3rd place in Formula Challenge and won this race back in 2021. The one driver missing from that is Stefanko, one who actually made his way onto the grid and will have to roll off from the 24th spot. But either way, a tight qualifying session, Rietveld with all the work to do.
Yeah, he's got 10 kilos holding him back, which coming out of turn 1, it's not going to help him get to that top speed as easy as the guys around him who aren't carrying weight. As we've seen in touring car racing before, the guy that's loaded with 70 kilos of ballast is not making progress to be expected. But even 10 kilos on something like this, especially with the fuel, it's going to be tough for the guys carrying ballast here today, as cars now lining up on the grid and the tension is building, the adrenaline's going, heart rate's increasing. See if turn 1 is nice and clean.
It certainly is. It is a long run down to turn 1. 620 metres. You have to get that start perfect. Haniowski did from 3rd place on the grid. It is an R8G starting from 3rd. Can they do it once again? Who's going to be leading on the run down to the Rettifilio? Well, let's get ourselves ready, as the second round of the 2022 season of Formula Pro is about to begin here at Monza, the Italian Grand Prix, and a fantastic one it shall be, with Formula Pro as we are underway once again. Jarno Simičić off that pole position, gets away well. It is Marcel Chinchik with a decent launch from 3rd spot, and instantly slapping down the push to pass. It is the Burst Esports driver leading. A little bit of a chop there from Chinchik in the background as Dennis Jordan gets squeezed onto the curb. It's Siggy though who's attacking. It's Siebel who's attacking. They're 2 and 3 wide. That was a bit of side by side with Bono Huis, who's just been squeezed. He's dropped down to 11th spot in all of that. My goodness, he has flown down the order as we look at the R8G car that would be his teammate, not Marcel Chinchik. That, of course, was Haniowski. Bono Huis, 11th.
Yeah, I was looking at the start there. It looked like, I thought it was one of the Mercedes cars. Didn't get a perfect launch, but Bono Huis down into 11th. Awful. And carrying that 4 kilos of ballast as well. That's not going to be the sort of start he wanted. He'll probably make his way back up through the field as we look back now towards one of the rocket cars, car number 23. I believe that is Danny Kish, who's leading one of the Netrex cars there. That'll be Colin Spork. And coming up to the Ascari chicane for the first time here. People having sniffs, but not really trying to make a move just yet. But then again, it is the Ascari chicane, and one of those places where you've got to be alongside the guy to make the move stick.
It's lap 1. Oh, look at that big defence there from Ibrahim Khan, just trying to keep the Wolves GR car of Liam de Waal behind, currently in that 9th position, as they'll all funnel their way through the Parabolica. Can confirm that Martin Stefanko has been able to get onto the grid, so he is taking part here at Monza. We've completed the first lap, as Simičić will lead us over the line from Marcel Chinchik, from Jordan, from Siggy, who Siggy is incredibly close to the rear end of Dennis Jordan, could be knocking him off of the podium. There is Ibrahim Khan defending from Liam de Waal, a little bit of a squeeze onto the curb once again. Obviously, they're just ahead of Bono Huis. Massive kick of oversteer, putting the power down. They've got to be careful doing that, because you might overheat your tyres. Bono Huis coming straight around the outside, going around Curva Grande as he's trying to already pick up spots, but he's not going to do it. The straight line speed, though, of Petr Beljak, 2 champions in the Formula Sim Racing World Championship, are going to go toe-to-toe here, and it's Beljak around the outside, and he's grabbed 11th.
That's a big move for Beljak around the outside of that second chicane, as one of the RHG cars trying to force the issue through the corner, so Bilek loses the position immediately, and outside the Lesmos, and it's all kicking off again. As I don't know where to look. It's manic over these first couple of laps.
Yeah, it was Jofsky making the move on Belyak, so he's now in 11th spot, and you can see the top 10's a decent distance ahead, so they might be able to work their way into it. Marcel, that's Bono Huis. Well, no, who was that? That was Jarno Opmeer, sorry. It was Jarno Opmeer who's gone for a spin. And there's also a front wing being flown from the Ford Zilla in the background. That'll be Fiducci, who's just having issues there, I believe. That was the front wing from one of the Ford Zillas. Either way, absolutely sent flying out of Ascari. Of course, it could have been Jarno Opmeer's in that sense, but here comes the race leader. That was a big bit of push to pass, and it was not fought from Jerne Simoncic. And with a 3-second gap, Simoncic knows how to win races, and he will be playing the long game.
Yeah, those two have disappeared as we've lost Spork and Opmeer from this race. I want to see what happened to Jarno Opmeer. Did he drop it on a curb, or did he have another issue? So both the Mercedes drivers are racing out of Brackley today. They may have had an on-site issue last time. It was see if that's manifested itself again, but you can see the gap. You can just see the blurriness of Kevin Siggy's car. 4 seconds behind Marcel Chinchik right now, and we're only 4 minutes into the race.
Well, obviously this would be kind of making a bit of a bold leap, but with 56 minutes left to go, it's not the longest race known to mankind. I think, at least at this point, we're going to see a third brand new winner in Formula Pro, because our 2 winners that have won races in this championship before at the moment are sat right down the order. Bono Huis with 6 race wins to his name, including one around here at 2021, and Jeffrey Rietveld, your Spa winner, 12th and 13th place at the moment. Absolutely miles down the order. It has not been a good start to the race for your series champion. We're on board with Dennis Jordan, who's dropped back behind Kevin Siggy, and there is the confirmation that Jarno Opmeer is out of his 2nd consecutive race in the R Factor 2 Formula Pro Series. Not so ideal. What is going well, though, is Maguire, who is on the attack, who's gone side by side and has already cleared Siebel.
Yep, just easy slipstream. We were saying that it wasn't going to be easy to get past, but that was pretty easy for him. As going back to the Wolves Esports car of Liam Duval, who is currently chasing Michi Hoyer. See what happens into the second chicane. Here he's pulling out, he's having a look. Can he use a bit of that push to pass to draw alongside the Burst Esports car? But Dennis Jordan now coming through the second chicane, chasing down Kevin Siggy for that final podium spot.
Leo Duval has managed to get past Michi Hoyer, who's instantly on the push to pass. Jujovski also closing in now inside the top 10. I think Jujovski's also got past Hoyer in 9th position as well. Kick of oversteer from Ibrahim Khan in the background, but there were concerns after Spa for Wolves GR Esports, who started out the season quite well for the 2nd consecutive year. They started out really well in 2021 and were how to put it nicely, they were quite bad for the rest of the season. They just did not find the form they started with. This is much more like it. They are absolutely on it in 2022 so far. Maguire running in 5th spot at the moment. Duval is teammate in 8th. Maguire, I don't know where he's found this pace, but Maguire is absolutely on fire in the opening 2 races of the season. He's going to go and try and get 4th position as he's on the rear end of Dennis Jordan. We ride on board now with the Irishman, who's in the braking zone, got to the inside. Dennis Jordan is not going to fight that at all. He's made the move, and whilst all that's been going on, we believe that Martin Stefanko has disconnected, which kind of follows on from some of his earlier technical issues in qualifying.
I think we have to start calling him On Fire Maguire, because he's
Fire Maguire. I like that.
He's just put one on Dennis Jordan, who is no slouch. But some drivers do find that pace seemingly out of nowhere. Michi Hoyer did it.
A couple of years ago. Yeah,
and
absolutely.
I don't know if it's because he upgraded his gear or anything like that. But yeah, he's a replay that we assume will be Jarno Opmeer's.
He got tapped.
Was there a rear lock of the brakes?
It did snap very, very quickly. No, it was contact. It was contact with the Wolves GR car. But then you kind of have to argue, did he turn in, or what kind of happened? It's not the ideal way of seeing it. And that is where Colin Spork drove into the rear end. So that was the front wing that we saw. It was the rear wing being ripped off of Jarno Opmeer. I mean, that one's a bit rough. Of course, you've already kind of committed through Ascari, but yellow flags will be out and all that. As you'll see one of the Williams going wide. I don't know how I feel about that one from the NetRex.
Well, luckily, it's not our job to work that out. We do
have to make decisions, though.
Yeah, but we do have dedicated race control and all of that stuff. We'll be probably looking into that, and if anything comes of it after the race, we'll find out.
On fire, Maguire. I like that, and he is absolutely on it right now. He's looking to the inside to try and clear Siggy. You'd have to ask, is he pushing maybe a little too hard at the moment? I don't think he cares. I don't think I care. I'm absolutely loving this Adam Maguire that we have in 2022, up to 3rd position after passing the 7-kilo led Kevin Siggy. Of course, finished 2nd in the opening race of the season. That's why he's carrying 7 kilos, is Kevin Siggy. So he's dropped down the order now into 4th place and be able to pick up the slipstream of the Wolves GR Esports. The amount that they're battling, though, they are really making it a 2-horse race at the front. Marcel Cincic and Jarno Simičić now 4 seconds clear.
That's a big gap after 8 minutes, isn't it? But it's kind of stabilised now, hasn't it? They absolutely bolted, but now it's stabilised. So maybe just managing the pace, managing the tyres. Tyre degradation isn't particularly high here because it's mostly straight line speed. And they'll actually start going faster a little bit in a straight line once all that fuel's burnt off. Yeah, and the kind of expectation is they're going to... So this is a 44-lap race, roughly. Of course, it's an hour long, but the expectation is for the drivers and stuff, this will be a 44-lap race. Now, with that, the pit stop window is expected to be around the mid-20s because the overcut around here is absolutely killer. If you can overcut, that would be superb. Some teams will obviously start with a slightly heavier car expecting that a bit later on. It's not because the other tyres are so slow, it's just because of being on soft tyres that has that little weight on the car. Here comes a move from Liam Duval straight down the inside of Alex Siebel, so he's now up into 6th spot. I will say, I don't know if this is just me being me, knowing what they're like on strategy and stuff, but Alex Siebel and Dennis Jordan, they're not really fighting people, are they? No. What was that race in GT Pro where they just out-strategized everybody? I mean, they've done it a few times. They did it in the wet at Indianapolis. I remember it was Dennis Jordan's first ever victory. They did it at, that was one of the Lock Drummond ones. I don't think they won that day, but well, I think Siebel won. Maybe either way, Lock Drummond, one of the rounds last season. Again, beautiful strategy on the tyres, just timed it to a perfection. At the start of the race, you're kind of looking at them thinking, it's like they ran it so deep, didn't they? Yeah. Like they just put some fuel in right at the end. A strategy we thought was impossible. Yeah, qualifying runs right to the end. So they pull the master stroke, so they know what they're doing. Maybe they've picked it up from the lads in Milton Keynes how to do it, but it's one of those things. Strategy does play a big part in real racing and sim racing as well. As Duval all over the gearbox almost. He'll be close enough to read the part number on that rear wing soon. He's getting the slipstream off this corner. No DRS, remember, so it's not going to be a slam dunk overtake like it would have been last season from there. See if we can get close enough. Here we go. You don't want to burn too much if you push to pass at this point, though. His teammate managed to make some moves, and Liam Duval straight down the inside, committed on the brakes, locks up just a little bit, but manages to throw it over. Dennis Jordan again did not fight that one at all, really. They have company in the form of Ibrahim Khan, who uses a bit of his push to pass. That is a feisty driver in himself. I don't think he'll be waiting too long to pass Alex Siebel and Dennis Jordan. The thing is, what I love about this is that we're seeing these drivers now. For anyone who watches any of the R Factor 2 esports stuff, for anyone who doesn't, let's just clarify this, is that these drivers, it's not as if this is the only championship they race each other in. We've seen them battle time and time again, whether it is in various leagues on the platform, whether it is doing the full-on esports stuff that we have here in Formula Pro and GT Pro. We have seen these cars, these drivers battle time and time again, and that's what creates the stories. That's what we absolutely love, is the history and stuff behind it. Even over the last 2 years, we've built up enough to really talk about how these drivers battle and understand where they're good and where they're not. These aren't just random names, as we can see. Ibrahim Khan, keeping his fingers crossed that his rig does not fall apart. Again. Yeah, yeah. I think that'll be the 3rd time, but look at the concentration there on the Scotsman. It comes through Parabolica, and it's a weird corner Parabolica because you take sort of a late apex, but you've got to carry the speed in, but also somehow do that slow in, fast out. As Liam Duval makes a move on Kevin Siggy. My goodness. 2 Wolves cars, little chirp of the brakes. The Wolves are doing very well. Unbelievably well. I am absolutely shocked at how Wolves GR Esports are doing right now, and I am loving it. Of course, on the defence, just trying to keep Siggy at bay. I know you're an absolutely massive Wolverhampton Wanderers fan, but of course, that's a joke, don't worry. Don't worry, I got some really big stares after that one. But the Wolverhampton Wanderers football team, it's their sim racing team, Wolves GR Esports. Through the Le Mans Virtual Series, they were running out of the Molyneux, their football stadium, at the Molyneux Stadium. They have their sim rigs in there. I am 99% sure that Maguire and Duval are not
in the Molyneux, which I think is kind of the expected thing for this. Obviously, with it being rounds every 2 weeks, it's kind of unexpected for Deval to fly over from the Netherlands, for Maguire to come over from Ireland to do 1 round every. It's much easier to do it from home, so I think that's how they're doing it. But either way, cool little fact about them anyway. Just amazing how well they're running. Last season, they started off with their best result with a 4th place for Liam Deval, and from that point on, they didn't have a single top 10. Their highest finish after that was from Jan Grankvist at the Dutch Grand Prix with a 13th spot. That was the highest finish they had outside that top 4.
Really?
Yep.
And then Adam Maguire goes and puts on 2nd for Spa, and both cars running 3rd and 4th. Admittedly, they aren't carrying any weight compared to Kevin Siggy, but still, credit where it's due.
Neither Simicic, neither's Jordan, neither's Siebel, neither's Khan, Yuyovsky, Boljak. None of them are carrying weight. They're outdoing all of those names, and that's the critical thing.
Yeah.
Dennis Jordan takes an awful lot of the curb there and kicks up a load of sparks as well from the underside of the car. Of course, brand new for our Factor 2 when it joined it on the 9th of May. Those sparks look absolutely awesome. We were talking about that at Spa, me and John Munro, who is, by the way, if anyone's wondering why you're here alongside, it's because John Munro's off in the Netherlands, so maybe he's trying to get some tips and tricks from our Dutch contingent on the grid, considering how fast they are. There's Dennis Jordan we can see on board with, as he'll fly through Ascari.
Such a fast section, and also you've got those sausage cubs on the inside of Ascari that in a GT3 car hit them all day long. In these cars, if you hit them, you're on a one-way ticket to the wall.
Absolutely. Now, they're going to be staying out for quite a bit longer. Whilst we have 1 required pit stop, as you're absolutely right, they've got to run 2 different compounds. There are 4 compounds in Formula Pro: soft, medium, hard, and wet. I don't think we're seeing the wet at the moment, but soft, mediums, and hard. That's a big send from Ibrahim Khan. He looks straight down the inside and absolutely sends one to the inside of Alex Siebel, who just pushes him off but gives just enough room. Khan still alongside as they'll head round Curva Grande. It'll give him the outside for the Rogier, but let's see if Alex Siebel fights that one off. Sparks coming from the pair of them. Ibrahim Khan with the track speed, Ibrahim Khan with the advantage, and Khan is up to 7th. So Siebel fought that one a little bit harder, so maybe they're starting to get a little bit racy, and look who's charging in the background. Erhan Yuyovsky dragging Boljak with him, dragging Hoyer, dragging Rietveld as well.
Yep, it's Rietveld down there in 12th position as Ibrahim Khan gets a little bit too much onto the sawtooth curbs on the exit of the second Lesmo, and that will slow him down, especially with these cars running so low to the ground to give the old ground effect that we're currently seeing in real-world open-wheel racing at the minute. But there's Jone Simicic in 2nd, hanging on to the back of Marcel Cincic by just half a second. So in the slipstream zone, just been pulled along, maybe saving a little bit more fuel. See how far he can drag that out.
Well, he wants to go for that extra lap, but I will say with a little bit of concern, and I don't think Jone Simicic will be too concerned. I don't think even Marcel Cincic will be concerned. But remember how we were talking about it? A bit of a nice 4-second gap from 2nd to 3rd?
It's half.
No, it's not. No, it is not. Adam Maguire and Liam Deval are absolutely destroying the rest of the pack behind. They've pulled out, I mean, Deval's already pulled out 2 seconds on Siggy. Now, this tells me they're doing something different. Whilst they are incredibly fast, don't get me wrong, this tells me they are doing something different on strategy, potentially running a lighter car at the moment, so they might be stationary for a bit longer, they might be going for a bit shorter, which means they wouldn't be taking as much of an advantage on that overcut, which seems like it could be the meta, so to speak, for today.
Yeah, but we've talked about the amount, how powerful that overcut is, and there's a myriad of other strategies that could be going on as well, so it won't be until we start seeing some of these guys blink that it will work out exactly what's going on. As you can see, we've got the old webcam footage there of Jone Simicic. There was a little bit of an adjustment on his steering wheel going into turn 1, so maybe that was an engine mode, maybe a bit of brake balance, something like that, just to make the car a little bit more stable going into those first couple of corners. But he's hanging in there. Gap's under half a second. Maguire just 2 seconds back, so Maguire's gained virtually half a second on that lap.
Wow, I mean, it's just incredible how fast they're going right now, those Wolves GRs. Let's see if Simicic is starting to feel the pressure right now. To be fair, when it comes to Jone Simicic, it was around here. It's the only time that I've seen him under pressure. It was a race 3-4 years ago. It was before he'd even won his first major championship in sim racing, really. I mean, he'd won a few before, but going for a big one. And he was sat in a really good spot in the championship. He didn't really have to worry about it. but I remember he was in second and third, and the person that was leading was a guy named Janis Brakshock, a Hungarian driver, and he was with his teammate in second and third, with Martin Gosby, and the Brakshock was leading by 20 seconds, and they'd worked it out that Brakshock, with 20 laps left to go in the race, they'd worked out that Brakshock was switching from a two-stop strategy to a one-stop strategy, and they panicked. Now, their form of panic, my form of panicking is, I'm going to throw this into the barrier right now because I'm terrified. Their form of panicking was setting fastest lap after fastest lap after fastest lap. An unbelievable, just relentless barrage of lap times. And that's the kind of driver that Jarno Simičić is. He is more than happy to play these seriously long game. I mean, look at those tyres. You will see them wear. They will visually wear on this car. And we know this isn't the highest tyre wear circuit, but they look absolutely fresh. Here comes Jarno Simičić. He is using a bit of the push to pass as well to drag alongside Marcel Chinchik, and Jarno Simičić from pole position will retake the race lead here for Burst Esports, as now I think he might be feeling that charging pace from behind. Yeah, you think he's probably going to start putting in some faster lap, not fastest laps, but still some fast laps to try and maybe build a little bit of advantage before his pit stop. But he's noticed that Chinchik didn't actually really fight him that much, so you might think that Chinchik's just happy to sit in behind Simičić, punch a hole in the air, save a little bit of fuel, less time spent in the pit stop and all that stuff. So maybe they're just playing games with each other at this point. But saying that gap's gone up to 7/10 of a second already. Well, the pit stop time, the stationary time, I brought this up last round, is that they are in the pit box for, well, when they're changing tyres, it's roughly 3 seconds. Now, the fuel rate of this car, i.e. how much fuel it can put into the tank, is around 9 to 9.5 litres a second, which means you can afford to put in roughly 30 litres of fuel whilst only being stationary for the allotted time for the tyres, which it does concurrently. So you do them both at the same time, and obviously that is the intent. Ideally, then, you only really want to put in 30, maybe 40 litres, so you're only stationary for 3 or 4 seconds. You do not want to be stationary for any longer than that, and that is why fuel saving at this point could be a critical strategy point, just to avoid that extra couple of litres. Even if it's half a second, it makes a big difference on a grid like this. Yeah, just the high speeds of this track as well. The pit lane speed limit is 60 kilometres an hour, which is roughly about 40 miles an hour for those of you still using old money. Whereas the actual pit straight is over 200, or 320 kilometres an hour. So you need to try and lose as little time in the pit stop here, probably more than anywhere else. I mean, like Silverstone maybe, because of the way the pit lane works there, it just cuts out half the track. But here, because of the high speeds, you need to be in that pit stop for as little time as possible to try and maximise your track position. Well, whilst one Burst Esports car is leading, the other one is running at the moment in 12th position. So not ideal for Michi Hoyer, who I will say, when it comes to top 10 finishes, only got his first top 10 finish in round 3 of last season. Burst really struggled to get up to speed. When they got up to speed, they really found their form. It was just consistent top 10s from them. Both of them had top 10s for the final 4 races of the season. This season didn't start out quite as well, but trying to continue it. I think Michi Hoyer, though, not getting back into the rhythm. We know how quick he's been recently, but he did have COVID not that long ago. It was only a month ago, and was a month and a half, maybe closer to 2 months. And he did struggle through that, and I wonder if some of that still might be playing its part just a little bit. Not being able to focus so much, which affects everyone differently. I think it might just be lingering a little bit. Yeah, I mean, I had it about a year ago, and I'm still feeling it. So, like you say, it affects different people differently. But you know what Mitchie's like? He loves sim racing, and he does everything. If there's a championship, I'm doing that. So you might wonder, mixture of maybe a little bit of the lingering COVID, maybe spread himself a bit too thin, and maybe it's sort of caught up with him when he's not quite there yet. But you know, he is better than this, and he'll find it. Well, this is where Hoyer lost the position to Jeffrey Rietveld. So Rietveld up into 11th position, your championship leader after the first round. Remember how I said about seeing Jarno Simicić's tyres? Did you take a look at Rietveld's there? They weren't so great, of course. Not looking in the best form. Jarno Simicić pulled out to roughly 7/8 tenths of a second. Obviously, there is no DRS, so we don't speak about DRS range. We're just speaking about the seconds. BAM's on a little bit of push to pass. They have 60 seconds to use over the race. And as I was kind of expecting, Wolves GR Esports, they are doing something different on the strategy. They are going shorter. Everyone else is kind of expecting to go for another 10, 15 laps even from this point to try and get to the maybe not 10, 15 laps, but trying to get to roughly the 20-minute to go mark, as there was a move in the background from Belyak to clear the position of Yuyovski. But most other drivers will be going for another 10 minutes at least. So that is a very early stop. Tells me they were running very, very light, and that's where their speed was coming from.
Yeah, it's got to be, as he rejoins in 21st position there, just leaving the pit lane. So we cut to Yuyovski at the back end of Petr Briliak here, but it's like he saw his tyres when he went in there. They weren't as worn as some of the others that we've seen. So
it's not a tyre issue, that's the thing, isn't
yeah,
it?
it's all fuel. He's going to be on those mediums for a long time.
The thing is, the tyres should be fine throughout the rest of the 40 minutes. Don't get me wrong. I mean, yes, you can burn them out. They will thermally degrade. They will degrade generally, but you have to be a little bit careful on them, particularly on the rear tyres more so than the fronts. That's where the big issue comes. Yuyovski's tyres look absolutely fine, a ninth spot, but you know it's playing the long game on that side, and I just think that they're trying to go a little bit too aggressive. I mean, it explains a lot of their early pace. I will say that. This is no disrespect to them because we know how fantastic they've been. They're just trying something different on strategy, but you can't afford to make a second pit stop on a day like this. Liam Duval also into the pit lane. So Wolves GR Esports return their way down the order. Also, there was one other thing I want to say here. Lucas' 17th spot. Bono Huis, champion, 17th. So not only did his day not start well, he started in 6th spot, dropped down to 11th. He has continued to drop backwards, and I would not actually blame the 4 kilos for that, because you could always go. Rietveld's been making spots on 10. Siggy is running 3rd on 7.
Yeah.
It's not weight.
He had that terrible start as well. I don't know if we can actually get a replay of that at any point, but it's whether it was a poor start or he's having
Maybe he's got damage at T1 as well. That is a very high possibility.
I mean,
3 wide.
I raced 2 in Challenge last season, and I copped just the tiniest little bit of a hit on my right rear suspension. Second lap, going into Ascari, round.
I would be shocked. The thing is, to have someone of Bono Huis's calibre, for him dropping back like that, there is no way that is on. Again, weight we can cross off. We know it's not actually weight based on where the other 2 drivers with success ballast are, which is new for 22. But Bono Huis must 100% must have damage. He's not that slow.
Well, he had a problem at Spa as well, didn't he? But there is
such a bad start.
Not a good getaway. So that's Opmeer getting past him.
Just insane. Oh my goodness!
Wow!
Opmeer, wow! Did not realise he made it.
That's an open lobby move.
Oh, Fiducci getting onto the grass, and it's just traffic jam, log jam city down here. And you can see all the bumps front to rear. All of that is damage. Damage just being built up. More up and over the curb. More taps on the rear as well. And you can see obviously there was some damage on the front left tyre. That's obviously from locking up. Now, Bono Huis in the middle of all of that. I'm going to say I'd be shocked if he didn't get damage. There were 3 wide going through the rectificator.
Like I say, he did have that problem at Spa. It was like a gear shifting issue on his wheel or something like that, but I don't know.
I mean, not the season though. I mean, obviously from that he recovered back up onto the podium, and he's the only driver that has been on the podium in every single Formula Pro race, because Jeffrey Rietveld missed out here back in 2012. Sorry, it wasn't here. It was round 2. It was at Silverstone. Never mind. Silverstone for the second round of the season. Missed out on the top 10 there, or podium there. And so Bono Huis has been the only driver to do it. Of course, Kevin Siggy lost out in that chaotic Zandvoort race when Yuyovski decided to make a very bold move down the inside of him. Bold's really the nicest way of putting it. It's really good.
It was a very uncharacteristic move, wasn't it?
Well, to be fair, he got very aggressive in this championship towards the end, trying to fight off the red lights and Mercs. But yeah, they had that. It was a bit of a problem. So Bono Huis, at the moment, is the only driver to have finished a race on the podium in every single one of our races of Formula Pro. And I can say, not as a guarantee, but with most 99% certainty, that record is coming to a close today.
Yeah. Considering he had a 100% win rate until Spa, I don't think I've ever seen that in a top-level esports competition ever.
Not dominant like that. I mean, we've seen it in competitions before, but it's mostly on grids where there are, you know, the field spread is quite large, where you're not looking at the very, very best. In this, we were kind of clutching at straws that season, thinking what's actually happened, because we were looking at the very best. We are looking at one of the strongest open wheel competitions that we've ever had in sim racing. Now, yes, I know people will point at other places, and there are other places that are potentially stronger, maybe not as strong, maybe on equal strength. Those are ifs and buts. We can't really go into that too much. What we can say, though, is that right now you are watching about as good as it gets. I could not name many other drivers that I would add to a grid like this to make it any stronger. That's how strong it is.
Yeah, I can't think of anything else. I mean, they've not got DRS and they're still faster around here than I am. That's how good they are. I'm not saying I'm great.
They would go faster than me around here in a Formula Challenge car, and that has 200 brake horsepower less. And this is a pretty power-hungry circuit.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, they are honestly the tippy top, which, to be fair, does make me feel good when I will tell you that me and Dennis Jordan 7 years ago were battling over the last point in a split 2 race of some random league you've never heard of, and Kevin Siggy I battled with in a 2nd division race of something which again you've probably never heard of in flat 6 before he got good. I battled with all of these. They've all got so much better though. Like honestly, it's mind-boggling how much faster and how much pace they've found.
I mean, it's like you see the some of these leagues 5, 6, 7 years ago, maybe we would have been in sort of like mid to back of split 1.
Oh yeah.
Now,
no way.
Division 3.
But what I find fascinating is if anyone here who is new to sim racing and stuff, and you can find some of these old leagues, of which there are plenty, Touring Pro Series, Formula Sim Racing, there are countless Grand Prix Virtual World Championship, there are loads of leagues on R Factor, obviously it was R Factor 1 back then and R Factor 2 now. Go back and look 5, 6, 7 years ago and look at some of the names, like even in like the 2nd split, because I will say that you'll probably see people battling around 10th or 15th that you are seeing at the front of grids now, because that is development, and that is why anyone who's running in the mid-pack of a championship now, expect them to move forward, because development is a big part of sim racing. People practice day in, day out, and that is what pushes them forward. Here is Alex Siebel now trying to charge back at Ibrahim Khan as we head towards the halfway point of the race. He is flying again. They were playing the long game.
There's no point in trying to force your way to the front of a track that you can slipstream to infinity on. Might as well, it's that phrase of it's not won at turn 1, is it? It's like, it's a marathon, not a sprint. We've still got 30 minutes to go.
You're getting them all in now, aren't you?
Yeah.
Marathon, not sprint. Races over at turn 1.
I've been watching those reruns of Top Gear on Dave again and picking up all the metaphors.
The house always wins. Are you going to throw that one in there? Well, that was your claim. I mean, you were the one that told me that, and then I just said it on the podcast.
Well, I mean, the house has gone bust now.
It certainly has. It's not going great.
Not because of lack of talent. Something's happened to his rig, to his connection.
I was going to say, they are only just down the road. I think you might be having a conversation on the way home with Bono Huis if you're going to be saying things like that.
That's why I'm taking the M1 back on the M40.
Yeah, definitely avoid Brackley on your way back, mate. Either way, Jarno Simičić here. We've passed the halfway point of the race. Jarno Simičić is leading by over a second now. He's managed to pull out a gap on Marcel Cimčić since he's been able to get through. Of course, there are two drivers that have made a pit stop at this point that are relevant to the front end of the grid. That being Liam DeVal and his teammate Adam Maguire. Ferris Stanley also into the pit lane for Rocket. This is Gianmarco Fiducci who we're looking at now. Said that he had actually decent pace at Spa, was a bit disappointed not to get top 10 and stuff, and he's finding bits out. Had a top 10 towards the end of last season. Struggled here, did not set a lap time. I don't think he would have assumed, though, that he was going to be battling for 15th place with Bono Huis this afternoon, and he did spend his weekend at the Lausitz Ring after finishing 2nd or 3rd in the DTM Esports Championship, something that Kevin Siggy ended up winning. Of course, there are more things that they end up battling. It's just absolute madness. But Gianmarco Fiducci spending his time at the Lausitz Ring courtesy of, I'm pretty sure it's the DTM boot camp. So he's been learning to drive a real GT4, one of those things of drivers making that transition into real-world motorsport from sim racing. It seems like Gianmarco Fiducci might be another one to add to that list.
Yeah, the likes of Jimmy Broadbent, James Baldwin, and
Moritz Lerner. Rudy Van Buren. Well, Rudy Van Buren's a bit of a cheap one because he actually kind of did a little bit. Well, I guess it was only kind of stuff. But yeah, he's moving into motorsport with Porsche.
Counts.
Not us, though. We're not good enough, unfortunately. Hanyovsky, though, into the pit lane. Obviously, with him is Ibrahim Khan of BS Competition. So the BS Competition in just ahead. Hanyovsky, the Macedonian of RHG Esports, one of the rockets as well. Obviously, we did see the other rocket car pitting earlier on the race. So Danny Kish now adding to his name. Gianmarco Verducci also getting a little bit blocked in pit lane as these two were leaving. And Hanyovsky has been able to close up an awful lot to Ibrahim Khan there.
It can all happen in the pit stops, can't it?
Absolutely.
Got to worry about unsafe releases and all that stuff. And remember, there is contact in our Factor 2 in the pit lane. You can't just ghost your way through, driving through other people's pit boxes to get to your own. You've got to do it pretty much like real life. You've got to drive up to it, pull in, and then pull out. And we saw, I think it was Risto Kappa in GT Pro, was a bit too aggressive with his throttle coming out of his pit box. Got a kick of oversteer and ended up ruining his rear suspension. And that was suboptimal for him.
Is that when you said it's a disaster for Scotland?
Yeah.
Yeah, nice. Classic. Had to get that one in here. Oh, look at that.
That's one way of doing it.
Yeah, that is one way of doing it. And so there was contact. So Hanyovsky has received a bit of contact on there. We didn't quite see that. But as that was Danny Kish on the right-hand side. I don't know what the legality is of that. But either way, was going on the right-hand side so he could straighten himself up into his box. As they were leaving, Gianmarco Verducci was coming in. Hanyovsky had an unsafe release, but kind of fair enough. There was a car that wasn't supposed to be there. That was absolute madness. There is Danny Kish. You probably have a little bit of damage on his car. Zancho Simsport represent, but it's not. I mean, we've seen instances in pit lane here. Anyone who watched the Le Mans Virtual Series as well, that was live streamed here on traction.gg, where we had contact in the pit lane, Nikodem Vishnevsky. I can't remember who it was with. But obviously a 4-hour race around here, but a couple of the LMP2s were making contact in the pit lane. Basically exactly the same as that, only they were very much backwards.
Yeah, I'd like to see the legality of going around the outside to get to your pit box.
Race controller, look at that.
Alex Albon's going to try that in Monaco next week. see how that pays off for him. But that's a great view. Dennis Jordan. Absolutely. Going to be doing over 200 miles an hour down towards the Parabolica here. Dennis Jordan chasing Kevin Siggy. That weight's not holding him back much, though, is it?
No, absolutely not. I mean, we heard obviously the new sound model that we've got here in R Factor 2. The screams of the V10 returning here as Kevin Siggy enters the pit lane. Also, Belyak into the pit lane as well. So Simoncic, Jordan, and Siebel all staying out. Now, these are the important laps to. Quote one certain F1 driver and as a race engineer, it is hammer time, and it really, really is, because at times like this, when we're chatting with Dennis Jordan and stuff before we came on air, the longer you go in this race, the better. It's the late portion of the stint where you are gaining so much time. The overcut is worth so much around here, not because the medium tyres are so much slower than the softs, but it's that you're on softs, you're on low fuel, you are effectively doing quali stints.
Yeah, they'll be going faster down the straights than they were at the start of the race because of the fact that that's burned off, and because you're going in a straight line for more than you're actually turning here. Yes, you're going to lose the time in the corners because the tyres aren't as good anymore, but you're going to start gaining time back in a straight line compared to the guys behind you who aren't going as fast because they're, well, heavier.
Well, also, I think it's kind of important to bring up the personal bests, just to clarify that point as well, because personal bests are being set by the top three, all three of them. Well, Dennis Jordan actually didn't do one, but he was not far off setting a personal best. Jarno Simoncic did a 20, well, he's just come into the pit lane now, but he did a 21.2 on the previous lap, an absolutely stunning lap time. It's about 2, 3, 4 tenths faster than anyone else, including those that have pitted. Those that have pitted running in the mid-21s. There is also Alex Siebel into the pit lane, so Dennis Jordan will assume the lead of the race. He was denied pole position in the late moments of the session. He does at least get to lead a lap. I'm absolutely sure he'll be pitting this time by. This is the battle, though, for 11th spot. It's Belyak, it's Khan as well. Try and pick these two out when they're flying past at extreme speed. Kind of a bit of a joke then that the two of them have been teamed up with each other in open wheel competition on R Factor 2, because there was a BS Williams last year in other competition.
Yeah, we see that often with some of these teams. It was Allied Esports with TCS off.
Which they've changed their name again now, by the way.
Oh, right. You've also got Rockets paired with Sancho Simsport. You've got some of these other teams just teaming up together, and some of these teams here, I think it was Redline and Mercedes worked together last season, didn't they? But they're not doing it this season.
It's a bit of a slippery slope, that one.
And Yeah, everybody's worked together with somebody else at some point.
G2 Esports, of course, Oracle Red Bull Racing Esports is a G2 Esports run team, and then they're partnered up with BMW and goodness knows what else. It's all very confusing. The spider web of team links in sim racing honestly boggles the mind, and so if it is your first time watching sim racing, don't worry, because we're not going to go into it here. That is definitely late night endurance levels of chat.
We've only got 22 minutes left. We're not going to get it all done.
Exactly. I could fill a day's worth of podcast on how confusing some of the sim racing stuff is. So into the pit lane, Dennis Jordan, Damien Scovran, of course, in the Bicoles Burst Esports, as there is Jordan leaving the pit lane. Mitchie Hoyer also in the pit lane for Burst, leaving Bono Huis out front, where then Adam Maguire is going to lead this race eventually once Bono Huis comes in, if he can hold off Jarno Simičić. So the undercut has worked because he's been out on those tyres for so long. It's not as if he's done 3 or 4 laps now. He's been able to not take on too much fuel. I am going to say now, I reckon that for Wolves GR Esports, this is a 2-stop. I'm pretty confident.
I was thinking that, but I didn't want to make myself sound stupid.
Well, it's still on soft, so that doesn't. That actually makes.
Yeah, it's a two-stop confirmed.
That does, yeah, because it started on the softs. They're currently running on the softs. Anyone who's wondering why we know that is because the softs are the white walls compound. They're white walls. It's yellow walled for the mediums, and it is a green walled tyre for the hards, which you won't see because no one's that crazy.
No, and. Yeah, I think people are too familiar with a certain Italian brand of tyre in a particular open wheel form of motorsport. These are Goodyears.
Yes.
And Goodyear uses a different colour coding system for its tyres compared to the other one. Are we allowed to say the name?
I don't see why not.
Okay.
He still doesn't know. You're the one that can say it, not me. You can see here as we ride on board with Simičić those yellow wall tyres, so as confirmation that is 100% the case. Bono Huis continues then to lead. He's not pitted yet though, so this is not a general lead, this is not a confirmed lead, as Marcel Chinchik's going to try and get past the teammate of Maguire and Liam Deval. So down the inside Chinchik goes, and Deval moves to 5th spot at the moment in the Wolves GR Esports. So 2 cars from Wolves are still running inside the top 5 at the moment. But to clarify, by the way, on how the overcut worked there, look at some of the drivers that went in early. Marcel Chinchik pitted in early, and he was only 1.2 seconds back from Jarno Simičić. He's now 3 seconds back from Jarno Simičić. Dennis Jordan pitted from behind Kevin Siggy. He's now a second clear of Kevin Siggy, and Alex Siebel has been able to pull away from that chasing pack, the likes that had Ibrahim Khan and Petr Beljakin and Erhan Jovski. He's been able to pull out 3 seconds on that. That is why the overcut is worth it. It can save you 2 or 3 seconds if you can play your cards right, and if you're brave enough to take that much fuel at the start of the race.
I was just thinking, like, taking that much fuel at the start of the race. I reckon Huis is doing a Alex Albon at Australia. Pitting super late.
And trying to go easier. He is in the pit lane then with 20 minutes to go. So he's turning this into a proper sprint race right now. And what can our champion of 2021 do? Obviously was running outside of the, even top 15. He was running in 17th position when he was running around and then before everyone had pitted. What can he do now? He's already rolling in the pit lane. I would say a top 10 is still absolutely on the cards for Bono Huis if he leaves the pit lane fast enough. He just needs to charge. And again, we also need to ask a question about damage. It does make sense though, considering if he was starting with enough fuel to get to this point, it would also add up. If he did have damage and he was running not only an extra 4 kilos in his car because of success ballast, but then also running extra fuel because he wanted to get to this point in the race. So you're adding issue on issue on issue. He's now in 15th spot and will be trying to push, but he's 15th spot, 20 minutes of fuel, and those are medium tyres. I'm still not convinced.
Especially if he's had to repair some damage while he's in the pit lane as well.
To be fair, I remember commentating on Jarno Simičić once, and he did a 4-stop strategy at a race where everyone else was doing like 2s or 3s, and I remember saying on the broadcast, it's like, that strategy will not work. And then in the last pit stop, it was so much shorter than everyone else's. He came out in the lead, and I went, right, never ever going to doubt Jarno Simičić ever again.
He did the Schumacher at Manicourt.
It's just like you say, you shouldn't doubt these drivers. They've done a lot of research and preparation to get them into this position. Adam Maguire then will come across the line to lead at Monza. Jarno Simičić behind, Marcel Chinchik using the push to pass in 3rd spot as he's trying to pull away from Liam Deval and simultaneously closing. Liam Deval in the pit lane. That is the signal to me that Adam Maguire is going to be coming in this lap
Yeah. Mediums to the end, it'll have to be, because they've got to use the two compounds, remember?
Unless they want to do hards.
What, just for total banter?
For the mad bants. We can't say that on this broadcast. This is far too professional. The mad bants on it. Mohamed Patel then trying to battle it out with our championship leader in Jeffrey Rietveld, 11th position at the moment, and he'll try and fight his way past, and I don't think he's going to be able to easily be afforded it, despite that car ahead being 10 kilos heavier. Jeffrey Rietveld is a feisty racer, as we saw last year around here when he was trying to battle out with Erhan Yovsky.
It was a good race that one last year, wasn't it?
Bit too dramatic for my liking. Which there is such a thing, by the way, even as commentators could be like, yeah, that was too much.
I mean, the challenge race was... I think I finished 12th, but ended up finishing 9th because of the amount of penalties that got applied. But it's such a great track to race around in these cars, because I think you get some of that nostalgia because of the V10s and things like that, but just the speeds and trying to get it pulled up and trying to go faster and faster every time. And I'm sort of missing not doing challenge this season. But Bono Huis is down in 14th, and so he's trying to make his way up there, but we've got here the battle for 11th. You see at the bottom right-hand side of the screen, Rietveld, Patel and Skovron. Skovron, one of the new drivers who came up from Challenge this season. And there we go. Here comes the slipstream. A little bit of push to pass from Mohamed Patel to just try and overcome the drag that he would be getting. Round the outside of turn 1 into turn 2. That's brave. Oh, kick of oversteer from the Redline car. Patel's almost got it, almost took the front wing off. Yeah, he's got to be careful with that. It's not just the front wing, it's the fact that it would push both of them off and will allow Skovron to come through. Sparks flying and all this, and Jeffrey Rietveld, he's going to fight for everything that he can. Looked back to the inside of Patel, who locks up ever so slightly coming into the Rogier. BS competition then 11th spot at the moment. Look at the silver and pink behind. Bono Huis, 14th spot right now in this race. But the joy for him, in a sense, is that his main rival in this championship so far is also not having a good run. 12th position just for the driver that is presently leading the championship. Bono Huis in third. Of course, Kevin Siggy, who's up in 5th, might be a little bit irritating there for Bono Huis. But right now, Bono Huis is absolutely flying. Maguire into the pit lane then, so Jarno Simičić will take over the race lead with 16 minutes left to go. There is the Wolves GR Esports car, a few laps later than his teammate in Liam DeVow. This will allow them to charge late in the race to try and close up some of the gaps and work it back, same as what we're seeing from Bono Huis. That's Rietveld having to defend from Skovron. That's Huis closing in as well. This is the run down towards the Rettifilio with 15 laps left to go. Skovron looks covered off by Jeffrey Rietveld, covered off once again, heavy onto the brakes, and Skovron cannot find a way past. This is bringing Huis even closer. It's just under a second now between Skovron and Huis now. Huis on fresher tyres, but we've seen that the degradation isn't as big here, so it's not as much of an advantage as it would be at somewhere like Spa or Silverstone or Zandvoort or somewhere like that. So battling is going to be playing more into Huis's hands more than tyre degradation and fuel.
Yeah, and to be fair, even then, the tyre degradation, the fuel, and then you account for Bono Huis's talent,
yeah.
Right? I think, yeah, and also the fact that I think we've got a little bit of the old red mist coming in from the Flying Dutchman right now, who doesn't tend to bow to it. He's normally very, very good with pressure, and that's kind of what you would expect from someone who's got at least 15 years in sim racing. Obviously, he won his first Formula Sim Racing World Championship back in 2010, which that itself was 12 years ago. So
he was about 15 when he did that, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was really one of the youngest drivers to ever do it. I mean, I think he's a little older than me. I'm pretty sure he was 94. That he was born, but either way, he's on the charge right now. Skovron's got the look down the inside, going through the parabolic and onto the start-finish straight, same as Erhan Yovsky's trying to get past another one of the young drivers on the grid. In Ibrahim Khan, commits onto the brakes, does the Macedonian, as he's going to try and go around the outside. Jeffrey Rietveld also having to worry. Oh, they're 3 wide, leaving the Rettifilio. Look at that, it's Michi Hoyer that's closing in as well. Mohamed Patel, it was Ibrahim Khan, does manage to hang on from Yovsky, then Hoyer, then Patel, then Skovron, who still keeps Jeffrey Rietveld at bay. They'll go side by side up towards the Rogier, and this will be an outside move as there's contact up at the front as well. 7th place, Erhan Yovsky able to hang on, and Jeffrey Rietveld's been sent over, and guess who's coming through? And yes, it is, for the 2nd consecutive year. You're goddamn right, it's Bono Huis.
Now we want to see if that was contact or if Rietveld just made a little bit of a mistake on the braking and just had to bail and go across that second chicane. But it's Bono Huis is now in front of the guy leading the championship.
Indeed. He's just so good at picking his way through those kind of things. I don't think it'll be long before he's on the rear end of Mohamed Patel and will try and pass. And then he's got a bit of a gap to close up to Hoyer, which I think he can do. The thing is, he's looking to try and get a top 10 in just for... I mean, it's not the points are just for the top 10. Everyone on this grid will receive points, but it's just extra points. Every position you gain is points, and that's what they need to focus on right now. On board with Michi Hoyer, who will look to the inside of Ibrahim Khan, who might well move over, getting the slipstream assistance from the Macedonian of Erhaniovski, and then look straight down the inside, trying to make it 3 wide into the Rettifilio, which will not work. And somehow they all come through it still in the same positions. I don't understand how that works. Yovski's ahead of Khan, Khan's ahead of Hoyer, Patel still off the back end of this, and this is madness.
Michi Hoyer just thought,
why not?
I'll just cut across the inside of the chicane and still manage to get the car under control. Around the outside of the Rogier, though, gets on the sausage curbs again. Ibrahim Khan getting the elbows right out, but Michi Hoyer has managed to... just very, very careful. Ibrahim Khan's probably going to be having a few choice words into his headset microphone to his team right now.
It's not the calmest lad, is Ibrahim Khan, but I will say that was a beautiful move from Hoyer. We need to see that one again, because that was absolutely spot on. Getting it around the outside, giving the inside for the second part, the two of them giving just about enough room. That was a little bit too much on the rear end, though, getting the right foot powered down, and that might just delay his exit from Ascari. Ibrahim Khan's back in the slipstream, and looking backwards. Mohamed Patel's not close enough, so this is definitely the battle between the two of them. Big set for Ibrahim Khan, way too big. That is as predictable as it gets from Ibrahim Khan, who turns on the Euro beat through the Parabolica, pulls it back to the apex. Bono Huis is also going to close his way through and move his way up inside the top 10. The recovery drive from the champ for the second consecutive race is on, but Ibrahim Khan, despite that slide, has been pushing the push to pass, and he's trying to get back around the outside of the series champion. He doesn't do it, though. He overdoes it on the brakes, and now he has to worry about Skovron behind.
I was halfway through saying don't overtake him there.
It wasn't the wisest.
No, that's. But as you say, he's quite an aggressive driver, is Ibrahim, to put it mildly. But that slide is not going to do those tyres any good, as we're now on board with Damian Skovron, who is looking at the back of that BS car. Might get a little bit of a run. I mean, like Ibrahim Khan probably could have just left it and then got him down the main straight and just held back into Parabolica, but nope, he went for the move.
And he's overdriving it a little bit as well. Saw a few kicks of oversteer through the first of the Lesmos. And the thing is, this is the kind of driver that Ibrahim Khan is. So much talent, so much potential, but to be a little bit critical of him, not the racer mind, not the intelligent racer mind that we see from the likes in the real world of Scott Dixon and who can play the very long game and understand when this is okay to let this go. This is okay to allow this battle to unfold like this, and sometimes he just needs to play the longer game. There is so much potential for the driver who's moved over to the BS competition. This is Skovron, who's now going to try and make a move, and the defensive line already being taken from Ibrahim Khan. He's heavy on the brakes, he's locked up as well. No way for Skovron to pass, and of course behind him is the championship leader, Jeffrey Rietveld.
Yeah, Ibrahim Khan really overdriving the tyres now. Huge lock-up into turn one. It's sort of moved across a little bit into the braking zone. A little bit naughty, but no contact made as Skovron goes again into the Rogier. Does he get forced onto the sausage curbs? Yeah.
Yeah, he was a little bit less kind with Skovron there than he was with Hoyer. So managing to keep Skovron at bay, but this feels like it's got an air of inevitability about it with Skovron and Rietveld. And again, another big snap there from Ibrahim Khan. If he keeps driving like this, he's going to be in a barrier and will have to be lifted out of the Royal Villa Park here at Monza. So he needs to back it down just a touch, does Ibrahim Khan. It's not like he's not done a few races before. He's had plenty of races under his resume. We'll take a look at a replay as to Jeffrey Rietveld's battle with Skovron, and this will obviously lead all the way up so we can see what actually happened and how Bono Huis cleared the pair of them. So Rietveld dropped back behind Skovron around Curva Grande and then went round the outside. This is when we cut back towards the battle ahead. So Bono Huis then looks straight down the inside and makes it 3 wide, and that's what forced Rietveld to go over the anti-guts. I'm not sure how I feel about that. I kind of feel like it's just fine. It's racing. It's hard racing. It's
might need to see it from like the T-cam view or something like that, just to be doubly sure. But that's what we have race control for. They'll probably be having a few looks at that. And I think there was a little bit of contact going in as well as the Burst Esports car sort of moved over a tiny bit, but.
I think
nobody spun into a wall. I'd allow it.
I think it's, you know, you're 3 wide there. The car on the outside's kind of got to yield, and that sometimes can be a bit rubbish and a bit unfair. But that's how it is. For me, I don't think anything. If you're Bono Huis, you're carrying the overspeed, you're on the charge, you need to fight your way back up, you're battling for the championship, and one of those cars is your championship rival. You're going to make it 3 wide if you can, but obviously you're kind of accepting that if there is a big crash, it's probably on you. But that's just how it goes. That is how this racing goes, and I think that was absolutely fine. Bono Huis is already charging up to the rear end of Mohamed Patel, a driver that he also... actually, I was going to say the 2 battled. I don't think they did very much. They've both won championships in open wheelers on R-Factor 2. Well, it was R-Factor 1 rather back then, and then it turned into R-Factor 2. But they've both won championships, and I just don't think they've raced that much together, which is a bit of a shock, actually, when you think about it.
When you see 2 people that you think should have raced together but
and they never have,
and then they do race each other, it's like, this is what we've paid to see. As Ibrahim Khan now has Jeffrey Rietveld at the back end. I think Rietveld's just sitting there and watching for the next mistake, because he's probably seen about 5 or 6 by now. I just think I'll just pick him up on the next one he makes.
They probably can't do much, that's the problem. Obviously 10 kilos on board. Maybe not at the greatest start of the race, maybe got carrying a little bit of damage as well. You know, those kind of things to think of. He's had a very feisty afternoon of racing here at Monza, and that kind of can be a little bit of a problem when you're constantly battling with people. It's a position which Bono Huis really didn't have to deal with too much. He had a mistake back in Indianapolis in our only wet race at Formula Pro, where he made a mistake at turn 1 and then dropped back into the pack and had to race his way through. And then here at Monza, where he had to race his way back through. Outside of that, he basically didn't see anyone for most of the races. Not that he can't race, that's just how it goes. But the thing is when you get dropped down into the mid-pack like these two have, you are in the danger zone. You are asking for trouble kind of left, right and centre, and that's where you pick up the little bits of damage. That's where, essentially, it's like a gravitational well. You can't escape from the mid-pack.
No.
Here's Bono Huis then into the slipstream and will try and pass Ibrahim Khan. Looks to the outside coming down into the Rettifilio. Once again a big lock up there from Ibrahim Khan, and see how smart that was from Bono Huis. He looked back out, sorry, it was Mohamed Patel, never mind, thank you. That was a solid effort from me. I just saw one BS competition car locking up and I just instantly went, it's Ibrahim Khan. It wasn't. Yes, Mohamed Patel defending and just trying to keep Bono Huis at bay. Huis was so wise there at turn 1 at Rettifilio. Not so wise there as he overdoes it, and surely he's going to have to let that position go back through, and does.
Yeah, he does. It's gentleman rule. It's like if you've cut a corner, gain an advantage, give it up, let the guy take his position back, and Bono Huis is right at the back end of that BS competition car again, so maybe a move into Ascari if he's feeling very brave. He's definitely going for it. He's on the outside. No push to pass at the minute, but he's clear of him. He's going to swoop around the outside into Ascari. No, he's just letting him go. Ascari's that sort of corner you think, I can make a move into here, but it's a much faster entry than you think.
And to say what you were saying earlier on, you've got curbs on either side. It's basically like a trench run, a canyon, that when you go into it, you can't really do much to the left or right. It's kind of one of those cars. Parabolica, you've got like 2 or 3 lines that you can work with. Ascari, you have 1. And if you are off of it, you are out of the race. That is how accurate you have to be. You can't really afford to drift off of it, because if you do drift off of it either side, you will meet a curb, and that is the critical thing. Again, big defence from Mohamed Patel. Bono Huis looks to the outside. He's going to throw it around. Still not enough grip. And this is where the thing is that as much as he's got the grip, as much as he's got the pace, overtaking around here is really, really difficult. Yeah, and maybe he doesn't have to push to pass anymore.
There's only one real opportunity here because of the lack of DRS now, and that is turn 1. As Alex Siebel is up the back of Kevin Siggy, as we see him in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. He's got the mood lighting on, the concentration face in full effect.
Do you think that's mood lighting or just his monitor?
Oh, he's just got very blue walls.
The thing is that I've said this before, and I kind of asked this question to people in endurance racing, whether they race with lights on or lights off at night time. And obviously not night time again, but still, I have to have my lights on. I can't race with the lights off. I have to, because I find the screen is too much. Clearly, between Alex Siebel and Dennis Jordan, who are both very close friends and have both raced on each other's setups time and time again, having very similar setups, because Dennis Jordan has the exact same thing. Lights off, screen on, very focused. I mean, that's where you get that good. You've got that laser focus, that absolute precision. Either way, for the Oracle Red Bull Racing Esports team, this is their best race that they've ever had in Formula Pro. They had 2 races at the end of last season where they finished inside the top 10, looking for 2 cars inside the top 5 as Bono Huis gets to the inside of Patel this time, and that is a much easier move.
Yeah, that's he's got slightly fresher tyres. That's put Bono Huis up into 9th, although 9th is not where we'd expect him to be. He's had quite the mare of a race. He dropped so far back at the start, and it's been a recovery drive that he probably won't be wanting to do ever again.
But it is the 2nd consecutive recovery drive he has had to do in 2022. That's the problem. Obviously, he had the recovery drive after the technical issue that dropped him down to around about 8th, 9th place at Spa before he recovered his way back up onto the podium. This time, though, with 2 minutes left to go, which means that, bearing in mind where Jarno Simičić is, will mean that we've got 2 more laps to do here at Monza. I think 9th is as good as it's going to get for Bono Huis, meaning that his streak of podiums, 100%, we kind of gathered that earlier, is coming to an end. Thankfully, though, he does get to keep a streak of top 10s, whatever that means to someone who's won a championship at this level. I don't think it means very much.
It's like seeing Michael Schumacher win nearly every week and then have that 2005 season, isn't it? Is he doing back there?
So what you're saying is when we don't go to Indianapolis, but we need to go to Indianapolis this season. We go to Daytona next.
We'll only have 6 cars turn up. Yeah.
Have 6 cars. Is that where we're at? I don't think it needs to get quite that aggressive. They're not falling off that much. Speaking of teams that have fallen off, Wolves GR Esports.
Yeah.
Big shame for these two, because of course Adam Maguire and Liam Duval were both running inside the top 10, inside the top 5, and were clearly showing some great pace around here, doing a very risky 2-stop strategy, and the pair of them find themselves very far down the order. There's Liam Duval, there is Adam Maguire behind, so 20th and 21st. And that is a sorry sight.
Yeah, so 2-stop strategies. I think we might see something like that at Azure maybe, but maybe not here.
A 2-stop strategy at Azure?
Why not?
Track position's king around there, though. That's the problem.
Yeah.
You can't pass. Although, to be fair, I mean, knowing how some of these drivers drive, I think we might see some bold overtakes. I think a 2-stop strategy might work at maybe Daytona, because obviously you can overtake. You should be able to overtake quite well at Daytona. But either way, we are moving now on to the final lap of this race, the final 5.8 kilometre run. I don't think Siggy is close enough to be attacked by Seaball from behind. Obviously, about a second between the two of them. Great drive from Siggy, got to say, with the 7 kilos on board. He's doing brilliantly.
Probably worth putting some money on him to win it if he's putting these kinds of performances in. But Jarno Simičić out in front with 10 seconds left. So this is the final lap, because Jarno's just coming through the Lesmos now, down underneath the old Monza oval, as we see Michi Hoyer battling with Erhan Yovski. This is a move by Hoyer. He's taken 7th position from Erhan.
Means it would be a good points haul for the Burst Esports camp. They were saying, I was chatting to Dennis Jordan before, and he was saying that they reckoned they could get 4 cars between Burst Esports and Oracle Red Bull Racing Esports. They reckon they could probably get 4 cars inside the top 6. To say that they've got 3 and the 4th one is in 7th, that's not bad. But here comes Jarno Simičić then out of the Parabolica to the line to win his first ever Formula Pro race. And for a driver that has won so much in sim racing, look at how much that meant to Jarno Simičić. He had a podium back in 2021, but a victory is so much sweeter. The consistency is here from the champ elsewhere in sim racing for the GT Pro champ himself, Jarno Simičić. He's here and he means business.
Yeah, Jarno Simičić, if you're not into sim racing, you watch this for the first time, guy's a monster. He can play the long game, he's consistent. He's pretty much a full package in terms of sim racing for me. Michi Hoyer's teammate there finishes in 7th, just pips Erhan Yovski to the line as the final cars come across the line, and that is a very exciting race, I think.
And Marcel Chinchik, who was denied a podium last round out, does get his podium in 2022. Dennis Jordan gets his first ever Formula Pro podium as well, which after 8 races, I know, obviously 6 races last season and 2 this season, you might say, oh, that's all right. That is actually a really good effort for Dennis Jordan. For Oracle Red Bull Racing Esports, who kind of struggled to get used to this car, they are also there. They figured something out, and I am loving it. It means that 2022, we were concerned coming into this year with Bono Huis's form. I think those fears are fully alleviated now. This is going to be a brilliant season if the opening 2 rounds are anything to go by. But it was a tactical race. It was a tricky race. There was pressure out there on the shoulders of Jarno Simoncic as he was battling with Marcel Chinchik, as he was trying to keep the Wolves GR Esports cars at bay as well in the early phases. But Jarno Simoncic does what Jarno Simoncic does. He plays the long game, and he plays it well.
I think he plays it better than any other driver in open wheel sim racing. I mean, the two Red Bull lads are very good at it as well. But I think Jarno just has that tiny little bit more over them, and it pays off, as you've just seen.
Well, I know we were kind of saying, obviously a lot of people will say, well, surely Bono Huis is the driver that's the best at it. To be honest, I think Jarno Simoncic is better at playing the long game, even better than Bono Huis, and that is why he is your winner here at Monza in the 2nd round of 2022. Marcel Chinchik in 2nd, and Dennis Jordan, his first ever podium in Formula Pro, will be in 3rd spot. Kevin Siggy, with success ballast of 7 kilos to his name for a 2nd place finish last round, he will finish in 4th place, with Alex for Oracle Red Bull Racing Esports making it for the very first time 2 Red Bull Racing Esports cars inside the top 5. Petr Beliak, who got his first ever top 10 in Formula Pro last round, continues that up with a 6th place finish, and Michi Hoyer, Erhan Yajovski finished in 7th and 8th. Bono Huis, after very early drama, works his way back up into 9th as recovery mode was activated, and Mohamed Patel would round out the top 10. Behind that, in 11th position, would be Damian Skovron, with Jeffrey Rietveld, Ibrahim Khan, Davin Marocek and Ferris Stanley. Danny Kish, Gianmarco Verducci in his home race with Noah Roivers. Another not great start to the season for Netrex Grand Prix. 18th spot they would finish. Then Team Fortilla with Nuno Pinto and Liam Deval in 20th. Again, what could have been for the Wolves GR Esports camp. Behind that, of course, being Adam Maguire in the 21st position. A couple of retirements from the race as well, but another sensational race here at Monza. Adam Maguire, Colin Spork, and then the 2 retirements of Martin Stefanko and Jarno Opmeer. I mean, I don't really know how to think of that one. It was absolutely sensational, and I love seeing Jarno Simoncic win, the Slovenian, on top.
Yeah, we were talking upstairs earlier about the good guys in esports and sim racing. Jarno Simoncic is definitely one of them. He's always got a lot of time for people, and you ask him a question, he'll give you an answer, and that's what we like to see. You know, some people are a bit too stiff upper lip about things, but relaxed atmosphere with Jarno, and he deserves all the success he's having at the minute.
Can I just say, Jarno, did you see his reaction at the end?
Yeah.
And I love watching everyone's reaction, but you could see how much it meant to him. It was brilliant. It really, really was.
I mean, for, like I said, a driver who has known winning in sim racing an awful lot.
Yeah.
Again, he's a 3-time Formula Sim Racing World Champion. That's one of the highest categories that you can have in R Factor 2. Slightly below Formula Pro, you'd have to say. Sorry to Cameron Roger, but you know, it is what it is. He's also the R Factor 2 GT Pro Champion, which is the highest GT category. Then having fantastic form and competing for the championship in the virtual Le Mans series as well. You cannot think of things that Jarno Simoncic hasn't competed for. To see a win like that matter to him so much is incredible.
Yeah. Yeah, and you could see you could just see the energy he had put into that. I mean, it's exhausting I would say definitely for me, but for all of us to watch. And I would say that for everyone, it's probably an exhausting race. But yeah, you could really see how much it means to him. I'm really happy for him.
I think we all would be.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd be happy if I won a Formula Pro race again, defeating Bono Huis.
I'd be like, how's that happened? Everyone disconnected. That's the only way I'd win.
And what did you guys think to that race? It was a very clean race, wasn't it?
It was the early stages. There was a little bit of fisticuffs. I think that's kind of the big thing to take from it was Bono Huis losing out early on, wasn't it?
Yeah, it looked like just a very, very poor getaway. I mean, he was a little bit heavier on fuel. We saw that he went pretty much the longest of any driver before pitting. So whatever he was trying, it obviously didn't pay off for him the way he wanted. But the two-stop strategy from Wolves as well They looked rapid, but that was low fuel, and they ended up finishing 20th and 21st. So we'll probably have another look at the strategies for the next round and see what they can do to maximise the pace next time out.
What can Bono do? I mean, what did he end on, 10th, 11th? Like, what is going on with him, do you think? What do you think is going on with maybe the team or with him personally this season?
I mean, I'm not so sure. I think it's just the fact that everyone else has closed up the gap, really. You know, everyone's had the time to figure out what Bono was doing with the car last season. Bono and, again, the Mercedes-AMG Petronas Esports Team, a reminder, they were working with Team Redline last year, and they're not working with Team Redline this year. They're going their own path. I think that might play its part in it, because obviously you've only got 2 cars and then all your race engineers. 4 cars working together, trying to find out what's what. Does help, does pay dividends, and I think that might play it. And also, it could just be a bit of bad luck to the start of the season. We don't know.
Yeah, but and a bit bad luck. It is only the start of the season. It's only race 2. Let's have a quick recap. Let's look at the highlights of Monza. One thing I just want to say, that Jarno is his mental coolness. Like, he led that race pretty much from the start, from pole. It takes a lot, doesn't it, to keep your cool and stay at the front of the pack?
I mean, the driving that he did there, same with Dennis Jordan and Alex Siebel, who were both, all 3 of them were kind of like letting people past, right? I mean, that's kind of an easy way of putting it. But look at those the first 15 minutes of the race, where Jarno Simoncic was more than happy to not fight with Marcel Cincic, because he understood that everyone else behind was far enough back. And it was when the Wolves GR cars were closing in, I think even he'd kind of worked out that they were on a 2-stop strategy. They were on a different strategy just based on the speed they were catching. And then didn't risk anything with a nice easy overtake down the inside. It wasn't too much, and that's why we love watching a Jarno Simoncic win, because it's just so patient and so calm.
Yeah, so true, and I believe we could go to our race winner now. Jarno, can you hear me? Very first time he's won a Formula Pro Series race. Jarno Simoncic, are you there? It's probably the excitement's too much. Our driver that played the long game, incredibly patient, something I don't think any of us could have done. Started on pole, wowed us at Monza. That's race 2 of the season, Jarno Simoncic. And it'll be very interesting, actually, as well, to find out who everybody else is. Driver of the day, driver of that race was or is. It's nice to know everyone's opinion on it. I would definitely say Jarno Simičić did not let anybody down. And it's really left the championship quite wide open so far. Remember, the next race is coming up on the 6th of June from Daytona. We started off the season in Spa, Monza, and then we come up with Daytona. Jarno, can you hear me?
Yes, I am here. I can hear you.
How are you feeling?
Well, amazing. What can I say? I mean, for me, the victory is a huge achievement, of course, after a bit of so-so season one. Well, I understand that there were basically 3 competitors less because 3 cars were running some weight ballast. But nevertheless, I'm really happy with the result. The strategy was awesome. And I'm really happy for the result.
Well, let's talk about the strategy. We've been saying a lot here. You played the long game. You really did, didn't you?
Yeah, I saw Chinchik accelerating really quickly in the first laps. I just knew that he's going to go for it. I knew that the tires are not good for, let's say, 20 or even 20 laps of pushing, let alone 25, 26. So I needed to take it a bit gently. And I saw him wheel spinning his tires out of slow corners everywhere. So I knew, well, I need to let him go, capitalize on his driving, and come back later.
Now, what we loved, and I could see it, as soon as you realise that you've won that race, it meant so much to you, didn't it?
Well, it's a victory. It's a victory at the highest level of R Factor 2 esports. So, and that's competing with huge names as Redline, Mercedes, REG, Red Bull, and many others. And here we are, a small team burst, and well, we can do it. We are winning. It's amazing.
Yeah, it really is. And so let's look forward. Daytona in 2 weeks. What do you think of the track?
I have never raced it actually, because, well, in R Factor 2 there was not an official version till not long ago, but I hear it's like the best made Daytona that exists in sim racing. So I'm really looking forward to it. I love long straights, I must say. So looking forward to the low downforce, but I'm not looking forward to the extra 15 kilos that I'm gonna need to carry around the track.
I mean, I don't think any of us look forward to carrying an extra 15 kilos. And very quickly, you've got 2 weeks now until that race. Is it all about just being on the sim and practicing as much as you can, or do you have other races you're attending to?
Well, we have some other events like the Virtual Endurance Championship and the series with VCO, which runs different simulators. So yeah, there are a couple of different competitions going on. I need to be ready for all of them. But the good part is that now we have a lot better understanding of the Formula Pro setup, and the car was amazing to drive. And I think we won't have to push that hard in the testing for next round, but we will keep pushing, of course.
Well, look, it's been an absolute joy, actually, to watch you race today and go on and win. Congratulations, and we'll see you in Daytona.
Thank you. We'll see you.
Thank you, Jarno, our winner here at Monza. Isn't he lovely?
He's always a good lad.
We told you.
Yeah.
We do love a bit of Jarno Simičić.
Yeah, such an amazing winner as well. Very quickly, actually, guys, who would you say is your driver of the day, or is it Simičić?
I mean, Simičić would be an easy one, obviously being the race winner. I think realistically kind of has to be. I will try and look elsewhere, though.
Please.
I think for me, the drive from Kevin Siggy to do that with 7 kilos to get 4th is incredible. But for me, I've got to go with my boy Dennis Jordan to have got 3rd spot for his first ever podium in Formula Pro. For me, it has to be DJ. What about you?
I'm thinking go with Siggy for lugging that weight around and getting the great finish that he did.
Yeah, do you know what? I have to agree, actually, with Siggy. I love seeing how, Team Redline, how well they're doing so far. It's been great to see everyone, though, race in this particular race at Monza. Now, we've got some new content that, as always, has been dropping for R Factor 2. content there available, as always, on R Factor 2. And should we have a quick look at the championship standings after the second race at Monza?
Indeed, Jarno Simičić then will take the lead of the championship by a single point. My goodness, how tight. Marcel Chinchik moves his way up into second, and Kevin Siggy will move down a position to third, but with sitting on exactly the same points as Marcel Chinchik. Jeffrey Rietveld and Bono Huis, fourth and fifth, of course. Jeffrey Rietveld being a champion leader and race winner at Spa, moves down into fourth position. Dennis Jordan with that first podium up to sixth. Petr Belyek having the best start to the season he's had in Formula Pro, struggled for an awful lot of last season, up to seventh with 2 top 10s. Erhan Yovski, a podium sitter last season, just 8th in the standings. Mohamed Patel, Alex Siebel, Ibrahim Khan and Michi Hoyer round out the top 12, but incredibly tight at the top. You'll see the rest of them roll through. Maguire, Marocek, Skovron, a couple in here to really focus on. Bad starts to the season for Colin Spork and no Roivers for Netrex. That is a bit of a shame for one of our brand new teams, but Colin Burst Esports doing a little bit better than them, up in 14th, 15th, the two brand new teams. Jarno Opmeer, 24th in the standings after 2 retirements.
Yeah, not the best start for the F1 Esports champion, but there are the Constructors Champions. I won't say the Constructors Champions, but the Teams Championship. Team Redline at the top there on 110 points ahead of R8G, who have managed to get there into second on 103, and then Burst Esports in third with Oracle Red Bull Racing Esports on 77 points there in fourth. And then the BS competition, Williams Esports, Mercedes down in seventh, due to the bad luck of Jarno Opmeer and also Bono Huis. So that's something they're going to need to work on. By Collins Burst Esports in 8th, Wolves GR in 9th. They might want to be a little bit higher up than that, only scoring 9 points combined with the 2 drivers today. And then Rocket Sim Sport down in 10th, Team Fordzilla in 11th, and Netrex rounding out the field there in 12th.
Also a reminder, the bottom 2 will go into that relegation playoff race with the top 3 from Formula Challenge as well. Incredibly tight in that championship. How close was that at the top?
Do you know what? I feel like the rule book has been slightly thrown out the window. When I started, obviously at the beginning of the season with Spa, and we were talking about, you know, you've got certain drivers who have done very well that probably may or may not, you know, go on and win the first few races. None of that's happened.
I mean, we've got notebooks of data and stuff up here.
Yeah.
All of it's meaningless because every time we do this, it's kind of just basically brand new and completely crazy every single time, which is why we love it.
Yeah, I totally agree.
It's better that way.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's slightly crazy, people. Guys, next time out, we're going to be in Daytona. It's the 6th of June. Let's take a little peek. There you go, round 3 from Daytona. Monday, the 6th of June, and that is it. What an epic race that has been. Thank you so much for joining us here for round 2 from Monza. Don't forget, we will join us next Monday for more Formula Challenge. It's been a treat. Thank you, guys, for this evening. We'll see you again very soon.